Chapter 871. Let me go. Let me go. Linda cried and struggled. The bald man who was holding her captive was as strong as a bear. Her strength was negligible in front of that guy. You better behave yourself. The bald man slapped the back of Linda's head and said fiercely, "If you don't behave yourself, I'll kill you right now. I can let you go, but please let my friend go. He's innocent. He's just a tourist in Malta." Linda was not the kind of woman who would listen to orders. Charlotte was touched. Even at this time, she was not thinking about herself, but the friend she had just met. It was not hard to see that she was a good person. "Damn you, bitch." The bald man grabbed Linda and put her on his shoulder. Then he strode to the door of the backyard. Compared to Linda's struggle and clamor, Siale's captive was much more obedient and quiet. He was also very cooperative. Under the escort of the two bald men, he neither struggled nor begged for mercy. Even his words were very polite. "Two big brothers, where are you taking us?" Charlotte asked carefully. One of the bald men sneered. "We're going to send you to the gate of hell, understand?" Charlotte shook his head. "I'm a good person, so even if I die, I will only go to heaven, not hell." The other bald man slapped the back of Charlotte's head. "Shut your mouth. Save your strength so you can dig a hole later." "Dig a hole? Why would we dig a hole?" Charlotte looked confused. "Is this China guy a pig?" One of the bald men could not help but laugh. "He must be a pig, stupid China guy." The other bald man also laughed. Out of the back door, the three bald men escorted Charlotte and Linda into a dense forest. There was an open space in the forest. In the open space, there was a wooden cross, but there was not even a name on it. This place was clearly used to dispose of the dead. It was a cemetery. The bald man who carried Linda threw her on the ground. Linda fainted under the impact and fear. "Bastard," Baldy cursed. Then he looked at Charlotte. "Your friend has already fainted. Looks like you'll have to dig 2 holes." The two bald men who were holding Charlotte released their hands, and one of them went to get a shovel for Charlotte. "There's someone there." Charlotte suddenly pointed in a direction. The 3 bald heads looked in the direction of Charlotte's finger at almost the same time. There was nothing there. At this moment, Charlotte suddenly struck the throat of the bald man beside him with his palm. The bone of his palm struck the brittle bones of the throat, and a crisp sound was immediately heard. The bald man, who had suddenly suffered a heavy blow, immediately covered his neck and gasped for breath. Charlotte suddenly turned around, and at the same time swept a whip kick at the bald man's neck. Guan, who had suffered 2 heavy blows in an instant, softly fell to the ground. Until he fainted, he still couldn't believe that things would turn out this way. How did a pig-like Chinaman turn into a tiger in the blink of an eye? The remaining 2 bald men suddenly woke up and pounced at Charlotte at the same time. However, before they could reach Charlotte, 2 shurikens flew out from the forest behind them and viciously stabbed into the back of their heads. The 2 bald men fell to the ground at the same time. Blood flowed from the back of their heads, dyeing their bald heads red. "Come out," Charlotte said. A petite figure walked out from the darkness. She was the female ninja of the Chinese Zodiac battle team, Akiko Tsukino. Among all the members of the Chinese Zodiac battle team, only she had the ability to hide beside this ancient castle without worrying about being discovered by the night hospitaler. Akiko Tsukino said calmly, "Half an hour ago, I saw those 4 women come out. I was going to kill them, but I saw you touch one of their buttocks. So I changed my mind." Charlotte was speechless. "But what should we do with this?" Akiko Tsukino pointed at the unconscious Linda. Charlotte smiled bitterly. "You're not thinking of killing her, are you?" "Killing her is in our best interest. She's a problem," Akiko Tsukino said. "No, I still need her to bring me to the Temple of the Sun." Charlotte pointed in the direction of the Holy Mountain. "That mountain is the Holy Mountain. The headquarters of the Night Hospitaler and the Holy Palace are in that mountain. The situation there is very complicated. I need to borrow her identity to go to the Temple of the Sun." "Yes, an official identity." "All right, I was just kidding." Akiko Tsukino had no intention of killing Linda. When Linda was facing the threat of death, she fought for Charlotte's survival. Based on this, she wouldn't kill her. "Then I'll leave this to you. Help me take care of her. I'll be back soon." Charlotte went back the way he came. Akiko Tsukino went to the person who was knocked out by Charlotte. She stepped on his hand and spun him around. Ah! The bald man was awakened by the pain. Akiko Tsukino said in English, "Get up. It's time to dig a hole." The bald man was stunned for a moment. When he realized that there was only a petite woman, he suddenly swept his leg towards Akiko Tsukino's lower body. A ray of cold light suddenly flashed, and when it stopped again, it happened to pierce the baldy's attacking right foot. It was a short sword. It pierced through the back of his foot and came out from the bottom of his foot. It was so sharp that it was like cutting tofu. The bald man opened his mouth to scream, but Akiko Tsukino waved her hand and pulled out the sword. In an instant, the sword cut through the bald man's open mouth. A stream of blood spurted out from the bald man's mouth, along with half of his tongue. Akiko Tsukino said, "Get up. It's time to dig a hole. Otherwise, I'll cut you up piece by piece." Cold sweat started to form on the bald man's forehead. The castle didn't change at all. Although so many people had died that night, it didn't change at all. It still looked so peaceful, ancient, and mysterious under the night sky. For hundreds of years, countless people had died in this castle, but it didn't feel anything. Charlotte didn't go through the front door. Instead, he entered the castle through the window that Giovanna and the others led him through. After entering the castle, he immediately activated the X-ray ability of his left eye. He quickly scanned the situation on the first floor. Two people were dealing with a corpse in the front hall. Realizing that it was Ferkel's corpse, Xia Lei was stunned. He thought to himself, only William Arthur would be able to kill Ferkel here. I can't believe he's willing to kill his own people. It seems that he wants to monopolize the metal book. This thought made him excited. If the metal book had been sent to the headquarters of the Night Hospitaller, it wouldn't be good news for him. If William Arthur killed Ferkel at this time, what else could it be other than the metal book? This was actually very easy to guess. Charlotte followed him to the second floor. He scanned the surroundings with his X-ray ability. When he didn't find William Arthur, he raised his head and used his X-ray ability on the third floor of the castle. With his X-ray vision, he saw William Arthur in Ferkel's study. Charlotte followed him to the third floor. In the study, William Arthur pulled out a book from one of the bookshelves. Click, click, click. A series of soft sounds were heard. The bookshelf slowly moved away, revealing the stone wall of the castle. William Arthur touched the stone wall with his hand, then pressed his hands against a piece of stone and pushed it out of the wall. The stone bit by bit entered the wall. When it was about a foot deep, a few bricks suddenly opened outwards, revealing a storage space hidden in the wall. It looked like the inside of a cabinet. It was covered with a red cloth, and on the cloth lay a bronze book. Huh! William Arthur couldn't help but laugh. Ferkel, you spent 2 years to convince the Pope to take out the metal book for research. But in the end, it's mine. The metal book, the armor of God. If the legends are true, I'll obtain powerful abilities and even immortality. Do you think I'll give it to the great leader? No, I won't. I believe you won't either. You're also looking for a chance to make a move on me, right? Ha ha! William Arthur reached out and picked up the metal book amidst his laughter. Just as he stood up straight, his body suddenly froze. Then he slowly turned around. He saw a military knife on his back and a man standing at the door. The man was supposed to be buried in the forest behind, but he appeared here and ambushed him. The man was Charlotte. Charlotte walked over to William Arthur with a smile. Thank you. If it weren't for you leading the way, I wouldn't have found the metal book. Not only did you help me find the metal book, you even helped me kill Ferkel. How can I repay you for being so considerate? Hearing these words and seeing the military knife on his back, William Arthur was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. This mouthful of blood seemed to take away all the strength in his body. His body swayed and fell to the ground. Charlotte bent down and snatched the metal book from William Arthur's hand. Then he squatted beside William Arthur and whispered, "Tell me, is it troublesome to enter the sacred palace? You will go to hell." William Arthur gasped. Charlotte said, "Let's talk about something more useful. Tell me what I want to know, and I'll tell you where Arthur is." William Arthur trembled, and his expression was strange. "All right, I'll tell you the truth. I am Charlotte," Charlotte said. William Arthur reached out to Charlotte. as if he wanted to strangle Charlotte before he died. Charlotte pulled William Arthur's hand away. You don't have much time. Knowing your son's life and death before you die is much more realistic than the power and immortality you were hoping for. Deal. Where's he? How do I enter the sacred palace? The gold card, the pass written by the leader himself. You can't enter at all, unless what? You killed all the paladins. Xia Lei frowned. That doesn't seem possible. Arthur, where is Arthur? In the soil of Siberia. I killed him, Charlotte said. Perhaps the bad news had stimulated his potential. William Arthur didn't know where he got the strength from, but he suddenly reached out and grabbed Charlotte's neck. He pulled his upper body up and opened his mouth to bite Charlotte's carotid artery. His blood-stained teeth looked very sharp and ferocious. But in the end, he didn't bite Charlotte's neck, but the iron book. Charlotte stuffed the iron book into William Arthur's mouth and said calmly, "Are you a dog?" After that, he pressed his hand against William Arthur's forehead and slammed William Arthur's head onto the floor. William Arthur's mouth was wide open. He could only breathe out, but not in. Charlotte pulled out the military knife from William Arthur's back and stabbed William Arthur's heart. 3 minutes later, he left the castle and disappeared into the night. In the direction of the sacred mountain, there was a rumbling sound of hooves and torches. A long line of torches slithered like snakes along the mountain path. The people from the night hospital or headquarters had arrived, but they were only left with corpses and puzzles. Chapter 872. The sky was still dark. Dawn was finally back, but it still needed some time. Charlotte came out of the ambassador's office, carrying a medical kit as he walked toward the room. The ambassador's surname was Zhang, and he was a very friendly person. Charlotte chatted with him for a while, thanking him for his help. Of course, he was only able to help because of Fan's invitation. In the ambassador's eyes, he was just a special agent carrying out a mission, and the conversation would only last a few minutes. But if he revealed his true identity, the situation would be different. But he would not do that, and there was no need at all. Charlotte knocked on the door. "Who is it?" A voice in broken Chinese came from the other side of the door. It was Giovanna's voice, and she seemed to be a bit nervous. Charlotte said, "It's me." The door opened, and the one who opened it for Charlotte was Rosa. Her body was tightly wrapped in a white bath towel, and the deep V-shaped cleavage on her chest was especially eye-catching. The other 3 women were in a similar situation. They used torn clothes to cover their bodies, and all of them looked dirty. They were in a sorry state, but they were also attractive. Charlotte walked in. Rosa closed the door, and the 4 women bowed their heads to Charlotte. If it was in the past, and Charlotte barged into their room at this time, they would definitely scold him as a pervert or something, but not now. They only had respect and submission for him. Charlotte smiled. "You're welcome. It's not like we've known each other for the first time. Don't you know me well enough?" The 4 women looked at each other, and each of them revealed a smile. "Of course, you're a pervert," Giovanna said. "An amazing pervert," Stella said. "You're a lecherous hero," Teresa said. "That's why you came to our room at this time," Rosa said. Charlotte was speechless. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became relaxed. "Xia, thank you," Giovanna said. Charlotte shrugged. "For what?" Giovanna said. "You have shown us the true colors of the Knights Hospitaller, and you have saved us more than once. We are able to continue our career as knights and our faith. This is also a gift from you. Please forgive us for our rudeness." And she did not continue. Charlotte said with a smile, "And what? In Siberia, we actually knew it was a trap, but we still persuaded you to go to Siberia. We also participated in Arthur's plan to capture you." Giovanna lowered her head. "You can punish us." "Hit you?" Charlotte smiled and said, "Look, you guys are already like this. Do you think I can bear to hit you? You are my knights. Let's not talk about the past. I actually have something I'm hiding from you." The gazes of the 4 women shifted to Charlotte at the same time. Charlotte said, "My men didn't die in the operation in Siberia. I hid them." The 4 women could not help but look at each other. After hesitating for a moment, Giovanna said tentatively, "Xia, can I ask you a question?" "There's no need to ask. I can tell you directly," Charlotte said. "I killed Arthur." Instead of letting them guess in that direction, it was better to tell them frankly. The four women were stunned on the spot. Charlotte continued, I paid the Knights Hospitaller $50 million and promised to give them a holy relic, but what they did disappointed me. Arthur wanted my life. If I didn't kill him, how could I live? I knew his plan, so I made preparations in advance. I was forced to do it. But Teresa wanted to say something, but stopped. Charlotte smiled. But what? Say what you want to say. All right, Teresa said. You must also know that we participated in Arthur's operation. You could have killed us, so why did you save us? Charlotte smiled. Didn't you always say that I'm lecherous? It's not my style to let such sexy and beautiful women die. Of course, this was not the real reason, but his words made the women from the Grey and Russo families blush. Do you blame me for lying to you? Charlotte said. No, you just did what you were supposed to do, but we framed you with Arthur. We, Giovanna looked ashamed. The other three women also looked a little ashamed. Indeed, they had framed Charlotte with Arthur, and Charlotte was only passively fighting back. His concealment was not a lie at all. Seeing their reactions, Xia Lei's heart was finally at ease. He smiled and said, Forget it, let's not talk about the past. You made a clean break with the past. Prepare to welcome a new life that belongs to you. I promise you, follow me. I won't let you regret it. The four women clearly had different understandings, and their faces inexplicably blushed. Let me treat you. I know a bit of medicine. Charlotte changed the topic. How can we do that? Giovanna's face became even redder. Stella's voice was very small. Give us the medical kit. We can do it ourselves. We can do it ourselves. Teresa said, her voice also very small. Rosa's lips moved, but she didn't say anything. Her eyes were 5% expectant, but there was also 90% shy and 5% awkward. The women's attitude was very clear, but Charlotte still shook his head. He said seriously, It's not that I want to take advantage of you. Really, please believe me. You've not only suffered superficial wounds, but also internal injuries. I have to examine you and prescribe you medicine. Otherwise, if the treatment is delayed, your condition will worsen. There's no doctor here, and you can't go to the hospital. I'm the only one here. The four women looked at each other in dismay. They were probably extremely embarrassed. Charlotte said, Who wants to go first? The four women were stunned, and no one went up to receive treatment. Charlotte frowned. Giovanna, you go first. Go lie on the bed. Giovanna hesitated and stammered. Charlotte said, Be obedient and lie on the bed. Treat me as a doctor, and treat yourself as a patient going to the hospital. You'll feel better. All right, I'll go first. Giovanna climbed onto the bed, but her hands were tightly holding onto the ragged clothes covering her body, not letting them fall. Charlotte walked over and tore off the ragged clothes on her body. Giovanna's face turned completely red. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Charlotte's actions also put the other three women in an awkward and shy situation, because the treatment that Giovanna was undergoing would soon be their turn. Under the nervous gazes of the four women, Charlotte began his treatment. He grabbed one of Giovanna's soft hands and checked her pulse. However, he was just pretending to check her pulse. His left eye quietly entered the X-ray mode, and he scanned Giovanna's body in all directions, carefully checking the internal condition of her body. Stomach bleeding, intestines red and inflamed, rib dislocation. One diagnosis came out from Charlotte's mouth, and his tone was like that of a miracle doctor. The four women looked at him dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that he could give so many diagnoses just by touching her wrist, and he looked so professional. After giving the diagnosis, Charlotte's right hand reached out to Giovanna's towering body. Giovanna suddenly became nervous. A pair of blue eyes stared straight at Charlotte, wondering if he would take advantage of her body examination to take advantage of her. Just as she was about to die from nervousness, Xia Lei's hand avoided that soft spot and placed it on one of her ribs. Charlotte gently pressed. Does it hurt? It hurts. Giovanna gritted her teeth and frowned slightly, looking very painful. But just when she thought that Charlotte would take his hand away, Charlotte suddenly used his thumb and index finger to clamp her injured rib and pulled it up. Giovanna suddenly screamed. Charlotte let go. Your rib dislocation must be reset. It's okay now. I'll bandage it for you. Don't move around for the next few days. Giovanna looked at Charlotte in a daze. The suspicion and shyness in her eyes disappeared at this moment, and there was only gratitude and admiration. But this good feeling only lasted for 2 minutes, and it ended when Charlotte used a cotton ball dipped in alcohol to clean her wound. Charlotte's movements were very gentle and very slow. Giovanna watched the cotton ball slide around her body, the highest place, the flat place, and even the place where it shouldn't be. The alcohol brought a burning sensation, but it also brought a trace of a strange feeling, which made her inexplicably nervous and slightly excited. She didn't dare to look at Charlotte's eyes, but her gaze was fixed on the hand that was cleaning her wound. Charlotte bandaged Giovanna's chest, and then helped Giovanna off the bed. Next. I'll do it. Stella didn't wait for anyone to speak, and she had already climbed onto the bed impatiently. She didn't wait for Charlotte to reach out and take away her tattered clothes, and she lifted them herself. She was plump and tight, with alluring curves. Her fair and delicate skin was almost full of scars, but those scars did not affect her beauty. Instead, they added a little excitement to it. What injuries do I have? Stella was inexplicably excited, and she looked very expectant. Rosa and Teresa also looked at Charlotte expectantly, waiting for his diagnosis. They were all very curious about how Charlotte did it. Charlotte grabbed Stella's wrist, and after 2 minutes, he said, "There are signs of inflammation around your anus, and the heat is strong. You'll be fine after taking some anti-inflammatory medicine." Stella, Rosa, Teresa, Giovanna. The diagnosis ended very quickly, but the cleaning of the wound was very slow. Throughout the entire process, Charlotte's expression was solemn, just like a proper doctor. But only he knew that he felt very uncomfortable. If he had not deliberately controlled his own body and desires, the true portrayal of his heart would not have been able to hide. After treating Stella, Charlotte treated Teresa and Rosa. When he was done, it was already dawn. "You guys stay here and recover for now. Don't think about anything else," Charlotte said before he left. The 4 women nodded and watched him leave. As soon as he was gone, they began to chatter. "He's actually a doctor. I really didn't expect it. Yeah, unbelievable. Just now, when he was treating me, I was wondering if he was an almighty god or an angel. I had the same thought too. Oh my God, I was so excited. Are you horny? You're horny. Hee hee. I thought he wanted to do that with us. Do you dare to not admit that you didn't have such thoughts? Can he do it if we're like this? What if we're done? He's so lecherous, he definitely won't let us go. If he wants to do that with us, what should we do?" Outside the door, Charlotte shook his head with a bitter smile, and his footsteps became heavy. Chapter 873. The Knights Hospitaller launched a search in Valletta, looking for the 4 female knights who had defected. Hospitals, hotels, and streets were full of the Knights Hospitaller, but they could not enter the China embassy in Malta to search. That place was equivalent to China's territory, a forbidden zone. Therefore, even if the Knights Hospitaller searched the entire island of Malta, they would not be able to find Giovanna, Stella, Rosa, and Teresa. As for Charlotte, there was no need to even think about it. The next afternoon, a large group of people climbed up the hillside. Their destination was the Sun Temple at the top of the mountain. Among the group were Maltese government officials, Maltese archaeologists, and Maltese police officers in charge of security. Charlotte and Linda were also among them. Charlotte donated a sum of money in Linda's name to protect the Sun Temple. The Maltese Cultural Relics Protection Bureau was happy to see such a thing. When Linda proposed to visit the Sun Temple, they simply sent officials, police, and Maltese archaeologists to accompany them, giving them enough face. This was the effect Charlotte wanted. He spent money to let the Maltese officials intervene. No matter how tyrannical the Knights Hospitaller were, they did not dare to act rashly. After all, the pirates were a sovereign country with their own army and legal status, and the Knights Hospitaller were just a past tense, existing only in history. If they challenged the authority of the current government, then they would probably lose even their foothold. When they arrived at the Sun Temple, Charlotte discovered that it was actually a stone temple. There was no majestic hall like he had imagined, nor was there a solemn and sacred statue. There were just huge stones one after another. They stood under the sky, facing the magnificent Mediterranean Sea, exuding an ancient and mysterious aura. Linda and a few archaeologists from Malta discussed the history and unsolved mysteries of the Sun Temple. She was very involved and excited. However, Charlotte intentionally or unintentionally left the crowd and came to the edge of the Sun Temple, leaning over to look at the cliff below him. Under his feet was a vertical cliff with a drop of almost 500 meters. This was the height of more than 100 stories. A timid person would probably not even dare to look at it. He activated the telescopic ability of his left eye and carefully observed the situation below. However, he did not see any caves or secret passages, which made him quite disappointed. When he arrived, he had also observed carefully, but he did not find any traces of the Knights of the hospital at all. He even awakened his left eye's X-ray ability to see through the ground beneath his feet, but there was no result. All the signs indicated that this was just an ordinary mountain. There was no headquarters of the Knights Hospitaller or the Holy Palace. The information I received can't be false. The headquarters of the Knights Hospitaller is here, but how do I find it? Charlotte fell into deep thought. The sea breeze from the Mediterranean stirred his hair and his clothes. He subconsciously took a step back, but at that moment, he noticed a black spot on the beach below. His left eye then fixed on that black dot. It was a man in a black robe. He was looking at the top of the cliff, but not with his eyes, but with a telescope. He then retracted his upper body, but his left eye's line of sight brushed past the edge of the rock and continued to lock on to the black-robed man. The black-robed man was bald, and the black robe he wore was the same as the one that chased after Linda that night. It looked like the black robe of a wizard. Black robes? Could it be that those black-robed men are the so-called Holy Knights? He thought to himself. The black-robed man only stayed for 2 minutes, then walked towards the bottom of a huge rock. Charlotte quickly lost sight of him and could no longer see him. So that's what happened. Charlotte's heart was filled with excitement. The bottom of this cliff is surrounded by cliffs on 3 sides, and it's almost impossible to climb. However, one side is facing the sea, and one can freely enter and exit by boat. If I'm not wrong, there must be a cave and a waterway below. The appearance of the black-robed man gave him a hint and also made things easier. If the black-robed man did not come out as spy on the situation above, he was afraid that he would have spent a lot of time on the mountain before turning his attention to the bottom of the cliff. "Mr. Marley, what are you doing? Come back." It was Linda's voice, and she seemed very nervous. Only then did Charlotte leave the edge of the cliff. "It's nothing. I'm just curious to see what's down there." "You're like a child." Linda curled her lips and said, "Have you ever thought about what would happen if you fell down?" Charlotte thought for a moment, then smiled and said, "Probably become Italian pizza." Uff. Linda could not help but laugh out loud. "Did you find anything or gain anything?" Charlotte changed the topic. Linda said, "I've been to this temple long ago. If there were any discoveries or gains, it was in the past. This time, I'm here to accompany you, but you're doing boring and dangerous things here." "Oh, sorry. Can you accompany me for a walk? I want to take a look at this temple seriously." Charlotte said, "Sure, no problem." Linda held onto Charlotte's arm. "You can ask me anything you want to know. I'll satisfy all your requests." Was there another meaning in this sentence? Charlotte did not think too deeply about it. He continued to act gay. Accompanied by Linda, Charlotte walked around the sun god temple. This temple had a history of more than 10,000 years. At that time, humans were still in the Stone Age, and the most advanced technology was fire and stone tools. It was impossible to build such a stone temple, not to mention that it could calculate the accurate time based on sunlight. It's really hard to imagine. How could humans build such a majestic sun god temple more than 10,000 years ago? This mystery has troubled the archaeological world for many years, and I still can't understand it. Linda looked at Charlotte. "Mr. Marley, you're a very smart person. I'd like to hear your opinion." Charlotte smiled. "I'm a layman. If an expert like you can't understand it, how can I?" You're just saying. Just saying. What's wrong with that? Linda shook Charlotte's arm. Her softness rubbed against Charlotte's arm without restraint, as if she wanted to melt his arm. She was acting like a spoiled child to a sister. Since they were sisters, what did such intimate contact matter? Charlotte thought about this question very seriously, and he thought about it on a deeper level than Linda's question. The Knights Hospitaller set up their headquarters in the Holy Palace here for a reason. Could it be related to this sun god temple? The people of the Stone Age did not have the ability to build this temple. But if it wasn't the people of the Stone Age, who could have built it? And why was it built? He was so focused on this problem that he ignored the harassment that Linda brought to him. However, Linda's harassment only increased, and it kept on accompanying his thinking. At a subtle moment, Linda suddenly stopped moving. Her softness and Charlotte's arm were still in the position of holding a hot dog between a bun and a bun, but her eyes moved straight to the area between Charlotte's legs. There was a cloud of smoke rising from that area, as if an umbrella had been opened up. Linda was dumbfounded, and her heart was in turmoil. Didn't he say he was gay? Why is he reacting like this? Charlotte was still thinking about the possible connection between the Sun God Temple and the Knights Hospitaller. He did not notice that the woman beside him was staring at him in shock. Linda tightened her grip on his arm and shook it gently. As she shook it, she observed the obvious spot. A thought-provoking smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She looked like a baby who had a secret in her heart, but the baby did not say it. Sigh. Charlotte sighed. Sorry, I know nothing about the history of this temple. I don't have any opinion. You saw that, Linda said. What? Charlotte looked at her, puzzled. Linda pointed at the place she had been observing and said nothing. Charlotte suddenly looked down. At that moment, he wanted to slap himself. Yes, yes. Linda cleared her throat and said in a very honest tone. Don't you think you should give me an explanation? What explanation? Are you gay? Of course, Charlotte said. Then why did you? Linda pointed at the place again. Charlotte followed and said, Where's the toilet? I've been holding it in for a long time. Linda was speechless. Wait for me. I'll go to a place with no one. Charlotte pulled his hand away from Linda's arm and chest and hurriedly ran to a place with no one. Linda looked at Charlotte's back and smiled. You can continue to pretend to be gay, but I'll make you show your face. Let's wait and see, Humph. Hiding behind a rock, Charlotte could not help but smile bitterly. He unzipped his zipper to solve the problem. He actually did not need it, but he did not want Linda to run over to check if there was any liquid on the ground and then continue to ask if he was gay. Women were sometimes easy to deceive, but sometimes they were hard to deceive. After solving the problem, Charlotte zipped up his zipper. But just as he was about to leave, his eyes suddenly fell on a pool of water on the ground. He could not look away. It was the bottom of a stone pillar. After the liquid had washed away the soil, there was a square pattern at the bottom of the stone pillar hidden in the soil. It was not unusual for square patterns to appear in some historical sites. In fact, it was very common. However, this square pattern was different because it was the pattern of an ancient alloy box. Although it wasn't 100% gentle, there were some details that made Xia lay certain of it. Charlotte was dumbfounded. What's going on? Mr. Marley, what are you doing there? Linda's voice was heard, as well as her footsteps. She had indeed come to investigate. Charlotte hurriedly dug the soil with his feet and covered the pattern of the box. But at the same time, he also awakened the X-ray ability of his left eye to see through the bottom of the stone pillar. Unfortunately, there were no other clues other than this pattern. Linda walked over with a smile. Mr. Marley, what are you doing? Charlotte retracted his gaze and walked towards her. Let's go back. Go back? You're going back so soon? You haven't even finished visiting this temple. Linda was very surprised. Charlotte said, I suddenly feel a little uncomfortable. I want to go back and rest. How about this? Can you give me some professional information about the Sun God Temple? I'm very curious. I want to take a look. Of course. All right, since that's the case, let's go back. Linda came up and took Charlotte's arm. You're not feeling well. I'll support you. Charlotte was speechless. Before leaving, Charlotte turned back to look at the stone pillar. He had found out the hidden secret of the Sun God Temple by peeing, and now he could not wait to go back and read the bronze treasure book he had snatched from William Arthur. Chapter 874. In fact, if Linda had not suddenly woken up in the wee hours of the morning, he would have started reading the Book of Iron at that time. Later, after talking to Linda, he had a new idea, which was to donate to the Maltese Antiquities Protection Bureau and visit the Sun God Temple in the name of an official. He had found the pattern of the ancient alloy box in the Sun God Temple, which made his desire to read the Book of Iron even stronger. Back at the embassy, Charlotte could not wait to enter his room, closed the door and windows, and took out the Book of Iron. The Book of Iron that he had taken from William Arthur was actually the same as the bronze book in his hand, just with an additional title. When he opened the Book of Iron, he saw those magical words. Some looked like a clump of grass, some looked like tadpoles, and some looked like human heads with noses and eyes. However, they were no longer mysterious to him. With the experience of reading them last time, there would not be any new difficulties this time. He read page by page, and all the words were stored in his brain. He could see through these words, and what he saw was a magical syllable. He closed his eyes, and the pattern of the compass formed by the floor tiles in the underground tomb of Huan Nation appeared in his mind once again. It was complete and flawless. The mysterious runes on the art of iron fused with the pattern on the compass, forming a larger circular pattern. It looked like a compass with runes carved all over it. Just like last time, Chinese characters appeared in the center of the compass. You are the only one who can turn it. Charlotte's consciousness suddenly activated, and the mysterious energy awakened. The compass in his brain spun rapidly, and at the same time, an ancient and distant voice appeared in his mind. It was the same situation. He was not unfamiliar with this voice, because it was the syllable hidden in the mysterious words in the Book of Iron. The energy hidden in his brain was like the needle of a record player, and the rune-covered compass in his brain was the disc. When the two were combined, the originally undecipherable voice in his mind could be read. You might not believe it, but just as I was about to end my life, I saw a woman. I have had countless women in my life, but I can tell you with certainty that no woman in this world is more beautiful than her. She was perfect. Whether it was her appearance, figure, or temperament, she was perfect. At that moment, I felt that she was a goddess. She would bring me the answers I wanted. She would even fulfill all my wishes. I watched her as she walked toward me, her body weightless. I began to suspect that she was an illusion, but she was so real. I spoke to her, begging her to answer the questions in my heart, but she only smiled at me and left. I couldn't accept it. I wanted to catch up to her, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't catch up to her. She moved further and further away from me, and finally disappeared from my sight. There was no trace of her in the ice and snow, but I didn't give up. I kept searching in the direction where she left. I longed to see her again one day, somewhere. I don't know how many places I've been to, and I don't know how many years I've been searching. Just as I was about to give up, she finally appeared. What puzzled me was that the first time I saw her, she looked like a phantom, but this time, she had a real body. What was the same was that she was still perfect. I thought that this meeting would be a beautiful beginning, but it wasn't. She attacked me, and I was injured. The box was broken. Although I managed to escape, my injuries were too severe. It was like an absurd dream to me. Many years ago, I wanted to end my life, but she appeared and gave me hope. Then, she shattered everything with her own hands. I'm going to die. I'm going to build a grave for myself. I'm going to swallow the broken box into my stomach. This is what I'm leaving behind for you. I'm pinning my hopes on you. I hope that you can solve the mystery that I couldn't solve. Also, I have a request. If you meet her, please kill her. She shouldn't exist. Her life is evil. I once saw her slaughter a tribe of 1,000 people. I'm the only one, and you are the only one. I didn't do it, but you must do it. This is our common mission. Time doesn't just move forward, it permeates. Goodbye, the only one. This was the entire content of the Book of Iron. According to the Post, the content of the Book of Iron was connected to the content of the Bronze Grimoire. It was indeed a complete bronze CD. After listening to the content of this bronze CD, some of the mysteries that couldn't be solved before were solved. However, Charlotte didn't feel excited at all. There was only a heavy feeling in his heart. It was as if there was a heavy piece of rusty basalt in his heart. In the holy city of Jerusalem, under the temple of Jesus, he found the corpse of an old man. He also found a large amount of ancient alloy fragments in that old man's corpse. At that time, he didn't know the identity of that old man, and even more so, he didn't know why that old man had so many ancient alloy fragments. Now that the mystery was solved, he didn't think that the old man was actually the only one who left behind the bronze grimoire. He said that he had lived for a very long time, even through the Ice Age. He was almost an immortal existence. His long life even made him tired of living, and he wanted to end his long life by committing suicide. Then, he met her, a shadow, which then turned into a real body. Wasn't he talking about Zhu Xianyue? Charlotte secretly thought in his heart. This thought made his scalp go numb, and a chill ran down his spine. The prehistoric one didn't mention her name, but he completely believed that the prehistoric one was talking about Zhu Xianyue. Now, it seemed that Zhu Xianyue was just a name from a certain period of time. She had a different name before or after that period of time. Maybe it was recorded in history, or maybe it wasn't. The prehistoric one didn't need to remind him that she was an evil existence, because he had seen with his own eyes how she prayed. There was no need to prove it. Time doesn't just move forward, it also permeates. What does this sentence mean? Charlotte thought hard. Is the prehistoric one try to use this sentence to hint to me that there are really different dimensions in this world? The world that I'm in and the world inside the box are obviously not the same world. Is this the basis of what he said? The hole in his brain suddenly opened up. The world 100 years ago was real. The world now was also real, and the world 100 years later was definitely real. 100 years might be too long, but if the unit of time was set to 1 second, who could say that the world a second ago was not real? Who could say that the world a second later would disappear? Humans were animals that lived on their senses, and they were used to defining what they could feel as real, but this world wasn't that simple. Other than the world of the past, the world of the present, and the world of the future, there should be a world of light, a world of darkness, a world of thought, a world of non-thought, and so on. If the universe was a chaotic circle, humans were probably just a grain of sand that formed this circle. Humans' understanding of the universe was probably less than 1 in 100 million. Letting go of one's thoughts would give birth to wings and fly endlessly. But the person who had the thoughts was still sitting in the room, an insignificant existence. After who knew how long, Charlotte couldn't help but laugh. The bronze cooldown left by the prehistoric one had indeed solved many of his puzzles, but it had also brought him new ones. He found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't reach the final answer. It was like there was an ocean in front of him, and he was just a small boat navigating this ocean with difficulty. Sometimes, the boat that sought knowledge capsized just like that. I already know why the ancient alloy box broke and appeared in different places. I know that the old man under the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was the prehistoric one. I also know that Zhu Xianyue existed in the prehistoric one. But who is the black-robed man? He and Zhu Xianyue seem to be the same kind, but the two of them seem to be enemies. Why is that? Zhu Xianyue is not normal now, but the black-robed man seems to be normal. If he wanted to snatch the ancient alloy box, I had no way to stop him, but he didn't do so. He didn't even think of snatching my last AE capsule. Why is that? So far, I've come into contact with a lot of clues about the ancient alloy and Zhu Xianyue and the prehistoric one, but the most crucial AE capsule has not been found. Is it not important? Or is it because of something else? One why after another, Charlotte's mind was divided into two parts. One part was clear, and the other part was confused. Mr. Marley, are you in the room? Linda's voice came from outside the door. Charlotte's thoughts were interrupted, and he glanced at the door. Very easily, he saw Linda standing at the door. She seemed to have just done some exercise, and she was wearing tight stretch cotton exercise pants and a fitness vest. The white stretch cotton exercise pants and vest were like a layer of skin that clung to her body, and the protruding points on top of her full and firm breasts were clearly visible. Her buttocks and thighs were not covered by fabric, and all the lines and indentations were clearly visible. She was so mature and attractive. In addition, the sweat from the exercise had wet the fabric. How could he look at it directly? A few seconds ago, his mind was full of ancient alloy, capsule, Zhu Xianyue, and the Black Robe Man, but in just a few seconds, his mind was full of that and that. Mr. Marley? Linda reached out and knocked on the door. I know you're inside. Open the door. Charlotte's head started to hurt. He knew what Linda was doing here at this time. He wanted to solve the world's most difficult riddle, and the woman outside the door only wanted to solve one riddle, and that was whether he was gay or not. Mr. Marley? Linda seemed to have lost her patience. Hey, what are you doing there? Giovanna suddenly walked over. Her upper body was wrapped in bandages, and her walking posture was a little strange. I'm looking for Mr. Marley. Linda subconsciously covered the triangular area between her legs. He has something to do and went out. If you have anything to say, you can tell me. I can tell him. Giovanna said. Then there's no need. Goodbye. Linda pouted and left. Charlotte let out a sigh of relief. It felt good to have a knight's protection. Chapter 875. Night fell quietly. Charlotte lay on the rooftop of the embassy and looked up at the vast night sky, quietly thinking about a new problem. The prehistoric one experienced the Ice Age. He said that he was the only person left in the world. He was lonely and even wanted to commit suicide. Later, Zhu Xianyue appeared. He began to search for Zhu Xianyue. He said that he didn't know how many places he had searched and how long he had searched. When he saw Zhu Xianyue again, he found that Zhu Xianyue already had a physical body. He also saw Zhu Xianyue slaughtering a tribe of thousands. Although he didn't say how much time had passed, did it mean that the Ice Age had passed and humans had appeared again? Did Zhu Xianyue not kill the prehistoric one because he was the only human in the world? Did she see him as a seed? This conjecture was very likely true because Zhu Xianyue didn't kill the prehistoric one in such a long time. After she had a physical body, she attacked him. From her point of view, she had already cultivated a forest. Why would she need to keep a seed? There was another problem that he couldn't understand no matter how he thought about it. That was, Zhu Xianyue broke the ancient alloy box in the battle with the prehistoric one, and the prehistoric one escaped with the fragments. He seemed to have thrown away a part and swallowed part. Who made the compass that searched for the ancient alloy parts? Was it him? Or was it Zhu Xianyue? Where's the last part? What was certain was that the compass that searched for the ancient alloy parts was definitely not made by the Ming Dynasty Emperor, because the manufacturing industry at that time couldn't have reached that level. Including the sun god temple on the sacred mountain, it couldn't have been built by the primitive tribes more than 10,000 years ago. Somehow, there seemed to be a force controlling human history, and there was no lack of such traces in this world. The pyramids in Egypt, the disappeared Mayans, and the disappeared Atlantean civilization. Charlotte's thoughts became active again. In the Mayan calendar and legend, the world would go through 5 cycles of destruction and rebirth, and each cycle was a solar age. The first generation of humans were giants, and they were destroyed by hunger. Secondly, the human race was destroyed by a huge fire. The third generation were the ape men. They were destroyed by killing each other. The fourth generation of humans was the Atlantean civilization. They were destroyed by the Great Flood. Now, humans were in the 5th cycle of rebirth and destruction. The end of this cycle would be the end of the world. The Mayans predicted the end of the world, December 21st, 2012, but it did not come true. However, before this prophecy, the Mayans' 4 prophecies were all accurate. The Mayans' own destruction. The appearance of airplanes and cars, the approximate date of the birth and death of Hitler, the great devil of the world, and the dates of the outbreak of World War I and World War II. If one were to look at the Mayan prophecy from the perspective of the first 4 prophecies, it was strangely accurate. However, judging from the last prophecy, it wasn't real. The previous 4 prophecies might just be a coincidence. Was it really just a coincidence? For a civilization that can accurately predict when it will perish, how could its prophecy be a coincidence? Perhaps it wasn't a coincidence, but a force or a powerful existence intervened in the cycle of destruction and rebirth of the fifth human civilization. Xiaolei was completely lost in the mysterious events as his imagination ran wild. Footsteps could be heard. Charlotte's thoughts were suddenly interrupted. He looked over. Under the moonlight, Linda walked towards him from the staircase. She was still wearing the same white stretch cotton gym shorts, tank top, and a brown blanket. She wrapped the blanket lightly, as if she had just finished working out and was using the blanket to absorb her sweat. Linda walked to Charlotte's side and sat beside Charlotte with the blanket. She didn't say anything and just looked at Charlotte. Charlotte smelled the faint scent of perfume mixed with sweat from her body. This scent was a kind of temptation for men. "What are you looking at?" Linda broke the silence between the two. Charlotte pointed to the sky. "The stars. I also like the stars. It's deep and mysterious, just like you," she said. "Just like me?" Linda smiled. "You're not a clothing manufacturer, right? You donated $500,000 to the Maltese Antiquities Protection Bureau in my name. This is not something a clothing manufacturer can do. Also, you killed those 3 bald men. You saved me, but you didn't tell me." In the castle, she had fainted and didn't see Akiko Tsukino at all. She didn't even know that Von Karen and William Arthur were dead, but she believed in her intuition that Charlotte killed those 3 bald men and saved her. Charlotte just smiled. He didn't want to answer this question. "You saved me 3 times. I want to repay you, but I don't know how," she said, and the corner of her eyes moved to where Charlotte was. The story of the hero saving the beauty and the beauty repaying him with her body was also quite popular in Western society. But the problem was that Mr. Marley was gay, so such a beautiful thing couldn't happen to him. Charlotte smiled. "We're friends. What's there to repay? That you are safe is the best reward. Are you really gay?" The scene she saw in the Sun God Temple during the day appeared in Linda's mind. Charlotte looked very serious. "Yes, I'm gay. There's nothing to hide. Are you discriminating against gay people?" Linda suddenly removed the blanket wrapped around her body and leaned down on Charlotte's body. Without waiting for Charlotte to struggle, her lips kissed his lips. Her entire body was burning with passion, and her movements were also very wild. Caught off guard, Charlotte's body entered a state in the blink of an eye, and it was very obvious. By the time he reacted and wanted to use that ability to control it, his secret had already been discovered by Linda, and his weakness had also been caught by Linda. The two of them suddenly stopped, but the air seemed to be filled with the smell of gunpowder, and a small spark would cause an explosion. Under the moonlight, the woman in the elastic cotton gym outfit had all the right curves. Although she was still wearing clothes, the clothes were almost no different from her skin. The bumps on the plump, the protrusion and indentation under the perky buttocks were very clearly revealed. It was mature to the extreme and extremely seductive. Charlotte's heart was impulsive, and he even wanted to lift that bit of cloth. And then, "You really aren't gay." Linda was very excited, and a burning flame burned in her azure blue eyes. Charlotte was extremely embarrassed, but he finally controlled that impulse. "Linda, fine, I admit I'm not gay, but I have a woman, and I don't want to betray her. Do you understand what I mean?" Linda was stunned for a moment, and the flame in her eyes seemed to be extinguished by cold water. "I treat you as a good friend," said Charlotte. Linda climbed up from Charlotte's body and forced a smile. "If you had said you had a woman, I wouldn't. I've already arranged it for you. You can go back to Italy tonight," said Charlotte. I'm not going back. I still want to find the Book of Iron." Of course, Linda refused. She said, "You can refuse me, but you can't order me around. I'm going to stay in Malta, and I must find the Book of Iron. You will find it, I promise you." "No, I've already made it very clear." Linda was angry. "You can't order me around. I'm not going back." Charlotte suddenly climbed up from the ground, hugged her waist, and took the initiative to kiss her lips. "You? Oh." Excitement and shyness swept over her, and Linda closed her eyes. But just as she closed her eyes, Charlotte's palm struck her carotid artery. The strength was not very strong, but it was just enough to knock her out. I'm sorry. You will only cause trouble and danger here. Go back to Italy and live your life in peace is what you should do. Just pretend we never met. Charlotte said to her, and then kissed her forehead. A quarter of an hour later, 2 SUVs stopped in front of the embassy. Charlotte put Linda, who was wrapped in a blanket, into one of the cars, and then said to Alessio, who was driving, Alessio, take her back to Sicily safely. Also, there is something in the blanket. Give it to her when she wakes up. The thing he put in the blanket was the Book of Iron. He had already interpreted the contents of the Book of Iron, and he no longer needed it. In this world, only he could interpret it, so even if the Book of Iron returned to the Vatican, it wouldn't affect anything. Well, I'll come back after I take her back to Sicily. Alessio didn't say much, started the car, and left. Charlotte got into the second car. Let's go. Siamu started the car and left the gate of the embassy, and then drove in the direction of the port. The FA organization has been silent for so long. Have you collected any new information? In the car, Charlotte asked aloud. No, Siamu said, but this is normal. The Knights Hospitaller is almost an invisible empire, and there is never a lack of fanatical believers who are not afraid of death. Coupled with the funds and equipment you gave, even the FA organization is a bit afraid. I'm not surprised that they chose to take advantage of this opportunity at this time. The Knights Hospitaller have already obtained information about the FA organization's headquarters, but they didn't tell me and even asked me to come in person. The Knights Hospitaller have never been friends. Maybe the Knights Hospitaller and the FA organization have reached some secret agreement to deal with me together, said Charlotte, his eyes flashing a trace of coldness. Boss, if what you said is true, what should we do? Siamu looked a little worried. It was already impossible to deal with the Knights Hospitaller. If the Knights Hospitaller and the FA organization joined forces, it would be terrible for the Zodiac team. Believe me, there will be a way. Charlotte looked very relaxed. Siamu smiled. He stepped on the accelerator, and the car suddenly accelerated to the port. At the port on a yacht, Siamu and Boss are here, said Yelena, who was looking at the road with binoculars. Several people came out of the cabin. They were Akiko Tsukino, Engyomi Khan, and Erdemo. I thought Boss would bring our new partners with him, but he didn't, said Yelena. New partners? Do you mean the 4 female knights? Engyomi Khan had a smirk on his face. If it's true, I will raise both hands in approval. 2 pairs of twins, haha. Our team is complete again, and the appearance has also improved. Don't let your imagination run wild. Akiko Tsukino said lightly. The 4 female knights are not your cup of tea. They are real classical knights. They're the boss's guardians, and the one who warms the bed. Engyomi Khan. Chapter 876. The yacht left the dock and headed for the magnificent Mediterranean Sea. There were many yachts like this on the sea, carrying bikini girls, champagne, and red wine. The rich usually like to enjoy life at night. Who would pay attention to the occasional oddity? At the same time, 4 guests arrived at a hotel in Valletta. 3 women and 1 man, all very young. 2 of the 3 women were twins who looked exactly the same, and the other was also very beautiful. The man surrounded by the 3 women was an Asian man. He was also handsome and charming. The Asian man seemed to be drunk. He walked unsteadily and relied on the support of the 3 women to not fall to the ground. Mr. Xia, why do you drink so much? A woman said. That's right. You just arrived in Malta and you're already drunk. How can you be like this? A woman said. The Asian man chuckled and suddenly reached out to grab a woman's chest and pinched it in an extremely vulgar manner. Ah, you're too much. The woman who was taken advantage of was very embarrassed and annoyed. The Asian man then grabbed the other woman's buttocks. You really are a pervert. The woman whose butt was grabbed blushed. She reached out to hit the man's hand, but the man's hand reached under her skirt and grabbed it again. Many people in the hotel lobby looked over curiously at the 4 of them. The men were envious of the Asian man's sexual bliss, while the women couldn't help but look at the man carefully. They had rarely seen such a good-looking Asian man. A woman wanted to get a room, and only asked for a suite. Then the three women surrounded the Asian man and walked to the elevator, talking as they walked. Mr. Xia, don't touch me. I'll satisfy you later, okay? Don't talk. It'll be bad if those people find out. No problem. Mr. Xia's man will be here soon. We're safe. The elevator door opened, and the three women helped the Asian youth into the elevator. The front hall of the hotel was suddenly filled with discussion. That Asian is really lucky. Can he stand 3 beautiful women? He can't stand it. How about we go help him? Haha, don't joke around. Those 3 women are obviously of the highest quality. Do you think anyone can sleep with them? Didn't you see the limited edition Patek Philippe watch on that man's wrist? That watch is worth 500,000 US dollars. Those 3 women are willing to sleep with him because he's rich. He doesn't seem to be just rich. He's also very handsome. A woman seemed to be fighting for the Asian youth. Amidst the murmurs, a bald man walked out of the front hall's door. He took out his phone, dialed a number, and said excitedly, "Charlotte has appeared. He's at the Mediterranean Hotel in Valletta. I also saw the women from the Gray and Russo families, but I didn't see Giovanna. Only Rosa, Stella, and Teresa. All right, I'll keep an eye on them." After ending the call, a sneer appeared on the bald man's face. That guy is really bold. He actually came to Malta. On the other side, the Asian youth helped the Asian youth into a room. As soon as the door closed, the Asian youth rubbed his face and took off a human skin mask. She was not a man, but the Giovanna that the bald man had mentioned did not show up. Because of her chest injury, her chest was wrapped in bandages, so she could pretend to be a man. Tonight's operation did not only involve Charlotte and the members of the Zodiac Squad, but also the women of the Gray and Russo families. As new members of the Zodiac Squad, they were obviously not suitable to participate in the battle due to their injuries. However, it was not a problem for them to put on a show in the hotel where the Knights Hospitaller had spies. Teresa quickly walked to the TV, then plugged a USB into the port behind the TV and played the audio file on the USB. Oh, yes. Giovanna's voice. "Mr. Xia, you're so powerful. I can't stand it anymore." Stella's voice. "Even if you can't stand it, you have to raise your butt, haha." Charlotte's voice. "You're so bad. My skin is already broken, and you don't even know how to be gentle." Yeah, yes. Teresa's voice. "Rosa, why are you hiding to the side? Raise your butt and let me spank you a few times." Charlotte's voice. "You're so bad, I won't do it." Pa pa pa. Pa pa pa. Amidst the chaotic sounds, the 4 women blushed. "I can't believe that we actually cooperated with him to record this kind of audio file," Giovanna said with a red face. "It's fake and not real. I don't think it's anything," Stella said, but her face was also red. Teresa was in a daze. She seemed to be recalling the scene when Charlotte came to find them to record this audio file in the afternoon. "Enough. We have to get out of here quickly," Rosa said. The 4 women took off their clothes, revealing the clothes of the hotel staff. They quickly left the room and hung a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the doorknob when they went out. Just as the 4 women entered the staff passage, the yacht stopped on the sea. It was motionless and had no lights, like an abandoned ship without an owner. However, there were 5 people lying on the deck, all holding binoculars and looking in the direction of the sacred mountain. A group of lights lit up in the direction of the sacred mountain and quickly moved over the sea. It was a fleet of more than 10 speedboats. They entered the Mediterranean Sea from the foot of the sacred mountain and then sped along the coastline in the direction of Valletta. "They're moving out," Yelena said. "We should move out as well." Charlotte climbed up from the deck. "Boss, are you sure you're only bringing Akiko Tsukino?" On the deck, Angumi Khan looked at Charlotte and Akiko Tsukino, who had already put on their diving suits. There was a hint of worry in his eyes. Charlotte said, "Someone has to stay behind to provide support. If there's a firefight, you guys know what to do." Angumi Khan grinned and then glanced at the ammunition box containing the Hellhound cannon on the deck. "They'd better not do that, or I'll blow this place up. Siamu, remember to contact Giovanna and the others and ask them to retreat in time," Charlotte urged. Siamu nodded. "Don't worry, boss." Charlotte and Akiko Tsukino jumped into the sea and then drove the two submersible motorcycles to the bottom of the sacred mountain precipice. 10 minutes later, the two arrived at the bottom of the precipice. Sure enough, at the foot of the mountain, Charlotte found a waterway that extended into the belly of the mountain. The riverbed of the waterway was very deep, about 20 meters, and could completely accommodate a yacht. Even a small cargo ship would not have a problem entering. Charlotte pointed to the depths of the waterway for Akiko Tsukino, then controlled the submersible motorcycles to enter the entrance of the waterway and slowly moved forward. The waves surged above their heads, and it was completely dark. Charlotte did not dare to turn on the lights. He used his left eye to observe the environment in the dark. This was also the reason why he walked in front. He had to lead the way for Akiko Tsukino. After a depth of about 100 meters, the waterway came to an end, and there was light above their heads. Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly, and he quickly saw the situation on the shore. It was a dock in the belly of the mountain. There was a yacht, a cargo ship, and a few speedboats docked at the dock. The dozen or so speedboats that had just left the dock were obviously not all of them. Behind the dock was a man-made platform. At the end of the platform was a stone staircase that extended deep into the belly of the mountain. At the top of the staircase stood a man in a black robe without a hood. It was a bald white man. Charlotte's eyes locked on the bald white man. He quickly recognized him. The bald white man was one of the black-robed gunmen who chased him and Linda in Sicily the night before. Charlotte retracted his gaze. He fixed the submersible motorcycles on the rocks under the riverbed, then pointed to the surface for Akiko Tsukino and told her there was a target up there with sign language. Akiko Tsukino nodded. After fixing the submersible motorcycles, she followed Charlotte upstream. During this process, a shuriken appeared in her hand. Charlotte slowly floated up against the stone wall of the dock. He could see the bald white man, but the bald white man could not see him at all. He gently pulled out the gun with a silencer, ready to kill the bald white man. But just as he pulled out the gun, Akiko Tsukino suddenly emerged from the water and waved her shuriken. The bald white man on guard did not have time to react, and the shuriken pierced his forehead. Akiko Tsukino's shuriken was dipped in poison. He fell to the ground and twitched for a while before he calmed down. One fatal blow. She was indeed a ninja who was good at assassination. The two climbed up to the dock. Charlotte took off the oxygen tank on his back, then took off the black robe of the bald white man and put it on himself. At the same time, Akiko Tsukino also installed several military explosive devices on several speedboats and yachts on the dock. After dealing with the bodies, Charlotte and Akiko Tsukino entered the stone stairway. The stone walls in the passage were lit by oil lamps, and the light was dim. The situation here was similar to that of the old castle. There were no electric lights, and there were no modern surveillance equipment. He subconsciously touched the gold pass that he copied from Arthur. He was a little puzzled. There is no electricity here at all. Don't these gold passes need to be inserted into a card reader to show it to the guards? Sneaking into the headquarters of the Knights of the Hospital was a very risky move. If he was not careful, he would be doomed. It was not that he did not think about the risks, but he had no other choice. He had to get the protective suits from the Knights of the Hospital. As for how much the Knights of the Hospital knew about the ancient alloy and the secrets of E, he did not care. William Arthur said that entering the Holy Palace required a gold pass and the signature of the commander, Angelo, but he did not think that he needed those things. He had lured away at least half of the elites of the Knights of the Hospital. Even if he was discovered, it was not impossible for him and Akiko Tsukino, as well as the support of Angumi Khan and the others. The passage was long and winding, and it was impossible to see what was ahead. As they approached a corner, they suddenly heard footsteps in front of them. Charlotte pulled out a military knife from his waist. Akiko Tsukino pressed Charlotte's hand. Chapter 877. On the other side of the corner, a man in a black robe was walking towards them. In his hand was a Gale assault rifle made by the Thunder Horse Military Factory. Seeing the Gale assault rifle in the hands of the black-robed gunman, Charlotte could not help but feel angry. He had given the Knights Hospitaller $50 million and a lot of excellent equipment. Judging from a reaction of the Knights Hospitaller tonight, the other party still wanted to ambush and capture him to get what they wanted. They did not want to go to war with the FA organization at all. On one hand, there was the choice of going to war with a large independent agent organization, and on the other hand, there was the choice of dealing with a Chinese businessman. The Knights Hospitaller had obviously made the most beneficial choice for them. Akiko Tsukino let go of Charlotte's hand and then gave him a sign. Charlotte nodded. When the black-robed gunman approached the corner, he suddenly walked out from the corner. The black-robed gunman subconsciously raised his gun, but it was just a subconscious action. When he saw that the person who suddenly walked out from behind the corner was also wearing a black robe, he did not raise his gun. But a second later, he noticed that something was wrong. His hand raised his gun again, and his mouth opened, ready to shout. A samurai sword suddenly pierced through Charlotte's armpit, instantly pierced into his mouth, and then came out from the back of his head. With a sword through the head, the black-robed gunman fell to the ground. Akiko Tsukino sheathed the blood-stained samurai sword, then quickly pulled out the black robe from the black-robed gunman's body and put it on her. However, it was a little too big. The two threw the body into the drainage ditch inside the stone stairway and then continued to move forward. It did not take long before they saw a row of stables cut into the stone wall where war horses were kept. The war horses' excrement was excreted through the drainage pipes, and they made the air here very smelly. At the end of the stone stairway was a huge natural cave. It was dozens of meters high at the top and almost 300 or 400 meters deep at the bottom. It was shaped like a top, sharp at the top and wide at the bottom. A new stone stairway extended down from the cliff, with a guardrail on one side. Standing at the edge of the precipice and looking down, one could see many man-made rooms. The bottom of the cave was wide and flat, with an ancient Roman-style church in the middle. It looked majestic and magnificent, with lights shining through the doors and windows, giving it a mysterious atmosphere. Other than the church, there were other buildings at the bottom of the cavern. Most of them were functional buildings, such as a canteen, a warehouse, and a medical room. Every building had the emblem of the Knights Hospitaller. They surrounded the church like stars surrounding the moon, and the overall scale looked like a miniature town. That church should be the real headquarters of the Knights Hospitaller, Charlotte said. Let's go down. Akiko Tsukino just nodded and followed Charlotte down the stone stairs on the cliff. She knew it was dangerous, but she didn't care. Not all of the stone houses beside the stone staircase were empty. Some of them were occupied. However, most of them were women and children, and very few of them were men. The people in the stone houses did not pay much attention to Charlotte and Akiko Tsukino, who were passing by their door. Some only glanced at them, and some did not even bother to look at them. However, even if they looked at Xiaolei and Tsukino Anko, they would not suspect anything. They would think that the lighting in the passageway of the stone staircase was very dim, and it was almost impossible to see their faces clearly. Coupled with the fact that Charlotte and Akiko Tsukino were wearing black robes, the people in the stone houses naturally regarded them as members of the Knights Hospitaller. Arriving at the bottom of the cavern, Charlotte went straight to the church. His left eye maintained its X-ray vision, vigilantly observing the surroundings. At the bottom, Akiko Tsukino separated from him and dived into the darkness. This was her style. If she were to move around under the light, her strength would be reduced. As they approached the church, an extremely burly man in a black robe suddenly walked out of a house next to it. He was also holding a Gale assault rifle in his hand. In addition to the octagonal cross emblem of the Knights Hospitaller, there was also a sign with the words Izuru written in Italian on the house behind him. The burly man's body also exuded a strong smell of alcohol. "Hey, brother, didn't you go to catch the Chinese? Why are you back?" The burly man in the black robe asked loudly. Charlotte said in Italian, "There are enough people. They told me to come back." "Which night?" The burly man in the black robe asked. At this time, two black-robed gunmen in the same attire walked out of the Izuru. Now, Charlotte was almost certain that these black-robed gunmen were the so-called paladins that Arthur mentioned. They were the most elite armed forces of the Knights Hospitaller. "It's Gaddafi," Charlotte said. "What? Who?" The burly man did not hear clearly. But at this moment, the two black-robed gunmen who had just walked out of the Azaru fell to the ground. The burly gunman in the black robe suddenly turned around, and in that instant, a samurai sword pierced through his chest and came out from his back. The moment he fell to the ground, he saw that the person who had just poured wine for him had also fallen to the ground, and a large area of the floor was stained red with blood. That was the last thing he saw in his life. Akiko Tsukino, who appeared in the darkness, lifted the legs of the black-robed gunman and dragged him into the Azaru. Charlotte withdrew his gaze from her and then walked towards the door of the church. When he walked to the door, Akiko Tsukino had already left the Azaru and was sneaking towards another lit room. She was cleaning up potential threats for Charlotte. Charlotte's strategy of luring the tiger away from the mountain had transferred most of the elite paladins of the Knights Hospitaller away, and the rest would be cleaned up in the way she was best at. She wanted to create the best environment for Charlotte's operation. This was actually the reason why Charlotte did not bring anyone but her. However, Ngumi Khan and Saimu also had something to do, and that was to deal with the paladins who had left. This was Charlotte's plan, flawless. The door of the church was closed, and Charlotte pushed the door open and walked in. The hall used for prayer was empty, and under the main wall of the hall stood a cross. Jesus, who was nailed to the cross, looked down at Charlotte, who walked through the door, and his eyes were full of pity. Charlotte quickly walked through the hall and entered the inner area of the church. His left eye quickly swept through the area, and he quickly locked onto a room. It was a study, and a black-robed gunman with a Gale assault rifle was standing at the door. In the study, a bald old man was using the office phone on the desk to make a call. This office was not lit by oil lamps, but by light bulbs. There was also a computer on the desk. This was the only modern scene that Charlotte had seen so far. The power source could be sent from the top of the mountain, or it could be a device that always generated electricity here. No matter what the reason was, it was not important. Charlotte walked to the door of the study. The black-robed gunman heard the sound and suddenly looked over. A cold light flashed past, and when it stopped again, an Italian army knife had been placed on the left eye of the black-robed gunman. It pierced from his left eye to his brain. The black-robed man did not have time to say a word or even make a sound before he fell to the ground. Charlotte quickly walked forward, reached out his hand to support the body of the black-robed gunman, and then slowly put him on the ground. After dealing with the guard at the door, Charlotte was not in a hurry to go in. He stood at the door, pretending to be a guard, and at the same time used his left eye to see through the old man in the study, and used the lip-reading spell to read the old man's words. "You want peace? No problem. We never thought of starting a war with you. Charlotte, that's because of Charlotte. Your people, Yamasa, killed his people, and that made him lose his mind. Of course, we need a truce agreement, and we will also give you compensation for our previous actions against Yamasa. $500, no more. We will not interfere with you and Charlotte, and you will not interfere with the Knights of the Hospital and Charlotte. Cooperate? Let me think about it. Goodbye, my friend." The bald old man hung up the phone. At this time, Charlotte almost did not have to guess. He already knew the identity of the bald old man in front of him. This bald old man was not a stranger, but the current leader of the Knights of the Hospital, Angelio. The Knights of the Hospital had two leaders, and the outside world only knew the puppet leader, Walton, who was the one who talked to him. Obviously, Walton would not be here. He was in Rome, Italy, in the Palace of Malta. Here, this was the real headquarters of the Knights of the Hospital, and, of course, only the real leader would be here. "You want to cooperate with me at this time?" Hee hee. In the study, Angelio sneered. "We are about to catch Charlotte. Do I still need to cooperate with you? I am willing to give you $5 million, but that is just to end the war." Charlotte's heart was filled with anger. He gave the Knights of the Hospital $50 million of operation funds to hire mercenaries and armed groups to fight against the FA organization. Now it seemed that the Knights of the Hospital had no sincerity to cooperate with him at all. Not only did they embezzle his money and equipment, but they also tried to catch him again and again. His cooperation with the Knights of the Hospital was undoubtedly asking a tiger for its skin, but now he was going to remove this tiger's skin. Charlotte reached for the doorknob, pushed the door open, and walked in. "What are you doing in here?" Angelio looked at Charlotte, who came in through the door in surprise. Then he saw the body on the ground. He suddenly realized something and hurriedly reached for a drawer. Charlotte leaped over the desk and kicked Angelio in the chest. Angelio dodged and punched at Charlotte's ear. The bald Angelio was a little old, but it didn't seem to affect his physical function. His movements were fast and fierce, and he had terrible strength. The power and speed of the punch that he threw out with all his might was not the slightest bit inferior to those so-called boxing champions. However, his opponent was Charlotte. Sally leaned back on the desk and dodged Angelio's fist. At the same time, he placed the Viper pistol with a silencer under Angelio's ribs. Angelio's body froze. His fist was still in the position of missing, but he didn't even dare to retract his fist because he was not sure if the gunman who broke into the Holy Church of the Knights of the Hospital would shoot him. Charlotte slowly got up from the desk, and with one hand still pointing the gun at Angelio, he said, "Angelio, we finally meet. Who are you?" Angelio didn't seem to panic. He looked very calm. Charlotte reached out and tore off the human skin mask on his face. "It's you." Angelio was shocked on the spot. He thought of many possibilities, but he never thought that the person in front of him would be Charlotte. Chapter 878. Charlotte jumped down from the desk and kicked the chair in front of Angelo. "Sit down, Mr. Angelo. Since you are here, then who is Valletta?" Angelo was eager to figure it out. Charlotte smiled. "Whoever you think he is. You lied to us." Angelo couldn't suppress his anger. "Haven't you been lying to me? You took my money and my equipment, but you have been thinking about how to kill me. I only lied to you once. Can't you stand it?" Angelo reached out to the phone on the desk. Charlotte sneered. "You can take the phone, but whichever hand you use to hold the phone, I will break your hand. Want to try?" Angelo glared at Charlotte. "How dare you do this to me? Have you ever thought about the consequences?" "What consequences?" "Tell me," Charlotte said lightly. Angelo said coldly, "You will die, and everyone around you will die. Stop now, I can be your—" Before he could finish, Siale suddenly waved his hand and smashed the handle of the spear into Angelio's eye socket. Bang! A heavy blow. Angelo fell to the ground. His brow bone was broken, and a stream of blood flowed out, blocking his vision. He covered his injured eye, and blood flowed from his fingers. He looked at Charlotte with his remaining eye, which was full of hatred and anger, as if there was a flame burning in it. Charlotte walked to Angelo's side and looked down at him condescendingly. He laughed. "Are you big shots used to this feeling of being superior? You can do whatever you want to me, but I can't be disrespectful to you, right?" Angelo glared at Charlotte and didn't speak. "You seem to have found out where the headquarters of the FA organization is." "Tell me," said Charlotte. "Is that why you're here?" Angelio asked tentatively. Charlotte nodded. "Will you leave if I tell you?" Charlotte nodded again. "There's an envelope in the middle drawer with a piece of information in it." "That's what you want," said Angelio. Charlotte retreated to the desk and opened the middle drawer. There were some papers in it, and beside them lay an envelope. He picked up the envelope and opened it. There was a map inside. A place was circled with a marker with the letters F next to it. The text on the map was written in Spanish. Charlotte glanced at a few names and found that it was a map of the Mexican state of Jalisco. Jalisco was the place where the Mexican drug lords were entrenched. Even the Mexican government forces were unable to capture it. Charlotte put the map in his pocket. "The headquarters of the FA organization is in Mexico. Is this true? Don't think I don't know that Jalisco is a place where drug lords are entrenched." A contemptuous smile appeared at the corner of Angelio's mouth. "If it were you or your people, you would never find the headquarters of the FA organization in your lifetime. You wouldn't even think that its predecessor was actually a drug-related criminal organization." Charlotte said, "No wonder you dare not fight it. You're afraid." "So, you chose to continue to deal with me instead of fulfilling our agreement, right? Angilio got up from the ground. You've got what you want. Leave here. You paid us money and gave us some equipment. But this information is enough to make up for it. Your information is really expensive. You promised. Go. Angilio pointed to the door to Charlotte. I don't want to see you again. Charlotte smiled. If I leave, what about your holy relic? Don't you want it back? Angilio said, that's a matter for the future. I won't think about it now. The future? Will you still use this kind of dishonorable means to deal with me in the future? In your eyes, is it really that easy to deal with me? Angilio said coldly. If you don't leave now, the people who went out to look for you will come back soon. Don't blame me for not reminding you then. Ding-ling-ling, ding-ling-ling. The phone on the desk suddenly rang. Angilio subconsciously reached out to pick up the phone, but when he saw the gun in Charlotte's hand, he quickly retracted his hand. He could speak to Charlotte impolitely because he was sure that Charlotte would not dare to really hurt him. But if he forced Charlotte into a situation where he had no choice, Charlotte would definitely shoot him. He had to give Charlotte hope that he could leave here safely. He thought that Charlotte would unplug the phone and cut off his contact with the paladins outside. Unexpectedly, Charlotte said to him, answer it. Your people have probably found out that I'm not in the hotel. You? Angilio couldn't guess Charlotte's motive. Charlotte said, tell them to continue searching in Valletta and don't come back. Okay. Angilio answered and then grabbed the phone. He glanced at Charlotte and suddenly said, he's here. After saying that, he quickly threw the phone away and quickly stepped back. In his imagination, after he said that, Charlotte would definitely attack him. But he quickly stepped back and saw that Charlotte was still standing in the same place, looking at him expressionlessly. If I were you, I'd get out of here as soon as possible, said Angilio. 100 paladins are actually fanatical believers. They are indeed a terrifying force in a head-on battle. But I wasn't paving the way for your retreat. I just didn't want to kill too many people. I asked you to let them continue searching in Valletta because I wanted to keep them alive. But you asked them to come back and die. Charlotte said. Only then did fear emerge from Angilio's heart. But only for a moment. He didn't believe what Charlotte said. Charlotte said, it's actually very easy for me to leave. I can even not kill the rest of your people. Angilio interrupted Charlotte and sneered. Who do you think you are? You think you can declare war on the Knights Hospitaller? Don't talk big. You can't scare me. Can't you let me finish what I want to say? It's actually very easy for me to leave. Take me to the Holy Palace, and I'll leave after I get the armor. I promise you, as long as I get the armor, we won't fight again. You? How do you know about the existence of the armor? Don't waste any more time. What I want to tell you is that my people are killing your people outside. The longer you waste time, the more she will kill. Charlotte said. Angilio froze for a moment. The fear that had just disappeared appeared again, and this time it was even stronger. Also, since you've already called your people back, you don't have to count on them to save you. They're doomed, Charlotte said. Angilio suddenly shouted, someone come? Ah! His voice passed through the door and window and was very loud in the quiet underground space. Charlotte didn't stop him. Someone, ah! Angelo yelled again. This time, a woman appeared in the doorway. She was dressed in black and carried 2 katanas on her back. Her body was covered in blood, and she looked like she crawled out of a pool of blood. This woman wasn't a paladin of the Knights Hospitaller, but Charlotte's Akiko Tsukino. Akiko Tsukino raised her hand and threw a bag of food at Angilio's feet. The bag of food broke into pieces, and a bunch of ears slid out. She didn't lose to Oha, but she seemed to be using this method to tell Angilio that his people's ears were all cut off by her. Even if he screamed, they wouldn't be able to hear him. Looking at the big bag of ears on the ground, Angilio's face was ashen. From a moment Xia Lei barged into his study, he actually thought that his situation would not be too dangerous. He was just in a passive position. He was confident that he could get through this crisis. But when this woman threw a big bag of ears in front of him, he realized that he was actually in a desperate situation. Boss, it's all cleaned up, Akiko Tsukino said. Charlotte nodded. And their dog, Akiko Tsukino added. Charlotte was speechless. She didn't even let their dog go. What are you talking about? Angelo could no longer keep his composure. Charlotte ignored him. He said to Akiko Tsukino, "You go back the way you came and support Angumi Khan. It's almost time." Akiko Tsukino nodded. "Okay, I'll clean up again. There's still people in the houses on the rock wall." Charlotte hesitated for a moment, then said, "If there are no threats, don't clean up." Akiko Tsukino smiled. "I know your style, don't worry." She turned around and left, but the smell of blood still lingered in the air. Charlotte's gaze returned to Angelio. "Now it's just the two of us. What do you think of my suggestion?" "Bastard." Angelio was a little out of control. "Do you think that's all we have? We have thousands of believers. Can you kill them all? Are you talking about normal believers? I don't think those believers are here to avenge you crazy guys, right? Those believers you mentioned have jobs, families, wives, and children to take care of. Their faith is normal, but yours is not. You even dared to snatch something from the Vatican. What faith are you talking about? What knight's loyalty? So, don't use your faith and the number of believers to scare me. Do you think I'll be scared if you scare me now that our story has progressed so far? You'll regret it." Xiaolei suddenly raised his gun and fired a shot at Angelio's knee. "Ah!" Angelo screamed and fell to the ground, clutching his knees. Charlotte walked over and stepped on Angelio's knee. His voice was very cold. "I don't have much patience to talk to you about your faith and how many people you have. I'll give you 1 minute to take me to the Holy Palace." Angelio trembled in pain, gasping for air. "Shoot me, but I want to tell you that this is not the end, but the beginning of the war." Charlotte moved his finger, and another bullet was shot into Angelio's thigh. "Ah!" Angelo broke down. His mental defenses were crumbling under the immense pain. His anger was also rising crazily. When did anyone treat him like this? He was the commander of the Knights Hospitaller, a true leader. But this China guy in front of him didn't care about his dignity and identity at all, and shot him like he was a wild dog. "You have 30 seconds, Charlotte said, his voice cold. Chapter 879. In 30 seconds, Angelio had to make an important decision about his life or death. But he was still hesitating, trying to find another solution. "Do you need me to burn this church? That might help you make a decision," Charlotte said, "or I can go back and melt that piece of metal. In that case, you will never have a chance to find your holy relic. If you give me the armor now, you still have a chance to get the whole one. If you don't, then don't ever think about getting it again." 30 seconds had actually passed, but Charlotte didn't want to shoot Angelio for the third time. It wasn't because he was merciful, but if he shot Angelio again, he might die. Angelio was silent for a moment before he said, "Come with me." He got up from the ground and limped to the door of the office. Both wounds were bleeding, and there were blood-stained footprints on the floor. Charlotte followed him out of the study, and, at the same time, he awakened his X-ray ability to see through the environment around him again. But he didn't find any hidden space or traps. After investigating with his X-ray vision, he had a rough idea that the Holy Palace was not in this church. Angelio took Charlotte into a corridor. On both sides of the corridor, there were statues of the knights of the hospital in a row. These statues were all wearing ancient armor, holding weapons such as swords, shields, and hammers. They added a strong sense of history to the corridor, as well as an austere aura. At the end of the corridor was the back door of the church. Outside the back door, there was a road paved with stones extending to a rock wall. It was about 70 or 80 meters long. On both sides of the stone road, there were also many statues of knights, and they were all sitting on horses. Charlotte's left, I looked through the back door and saw the rock wall at the end of the stone road. He thought to himself, there are so many statues of knights on both sides of the stone road. It can't be just art, right? They have a special meaning. Is the Holy Palace in that rock wall? While he was pondering over this question, Angelio suddenly grabbed a battle axe from Knight's statue and swung it at Charlotte's neck. Xiaolei's feet lightly tiptoed on the ground, and his body moved backwards. The axe grazed his Adam's apple and missed. Puff! A gunshot rang out. Angelio's battle axe fell to the ground with a clang. There was a bloody hole on the back of his hand. Charlotte said coldly, "You'd better behave yourself, or else the next shot will take your life." "You will go to hell," said Angelio. "We've always been in hell," said Charlotte. "Humph." Angelio snorted coldly and limped towards the door. He let go of the hand that had been shot and put his other hand into his pocket. Charlotte's gaze locked onto his hand and penetrated his pocket. At that moment, he saw Angelio's hand grab a golden card and forcefully fold it. Gold was soft, so it bent when it was folded. One of the electronic cards on the card was also broken. Charlotte recognized it at a glance. It was the pass to enter the Holy Palace. The one that Angelio just destroyed was the same one that he copied from Arthur's hand. Huh. Angelio laughed crazily. He took out the destroyed pass and threw it on the ground in front of Charlotte. "I've already destroyed the pass to enter the Holy Palace. Don't even think about going in again. Shoot me, kill me." Charlotte frowned. "Why are you doing this? Even if I take you into the Holy Palace, you will still kill me. I don't want to be a traitor of the Knights Hospitaller. Even if I die, I will die with honor." Angelio seemed to have made a decision. Charlotte said, "Can I enter the Holy Palace without a pass? Don't even think about it. I really didn't expect you to have such a trick up your sleeve. You are very cunning." Charlotte spread his hands, looking disappointed and helpless. "I don't have to go in. I can leave. But I have one last question. I believe you don't believe in the story of the horseman of the apocalypse on a red horse, right? You have no hope of restoring your country. So why are you still so persistent and so hard to find the fragments of the armor?" Angelio looked at Charlotte coldly and did not say a word. "You even stole the Book of Iron from the Vatican. What do you want? Or what is your purpose?" Angelio was silent for a moment before saying, "Do you believe in the existence of God?" For some reason, this question suddenly reminded Charlotte of Zhu Xianyue and the black-robed man. These two people had the power of God, but were they God? He said, "Yes, but sometimes mortals beautify God with their wishful thinking. They may not be our guardians at all, but hunters. You're blaspheming the gods." Angelio roared at Xia Lei as he waved his fist. "Are you doing this for God? That armor belongs to God. We believe in his existence. We can awaken him and receive his blessings. We can obtain great power and even immortality." Angelo's eyes sparkled with excitement. He seemed to be picturing a certain God in his mind, as well as the gift that God had given him. Just for this? Charlotte was not satisfied with this answer. Angelio suddenly said, "The only God who guards the world, I will die for you. Please guide me back to the kingdom of heaven." After that, he suddenly pounced on a statue of a horseman and pulled out a two-handed sword from the horseman's hand. After pulling out the sword, he did not hesitate at all. He held the hilt tightly with both hands and stabbed at Charlotte's heart. Puff, puff, puff. Charlotte fired 3 shots in a row. The silenced viper trembled slightly, and the 3 bullets pierced into Angelio's chest. Clang! Angelio's two-handed sword fell to the ground, and then he fell down. Charlotte walked to his side and looked at Angelio calmly. Blood kept coming out of Angelio's mouth. He opened his mouth and said, "You will die. God's punishment will come. You and everyone around you will die. You still remember to curse me at this time? Well, I want to let you die more easily, but since you are so unkind, I will show you something." Charlotte put his hand into the pocket of his underwear. Angelio stared at Charlotte with a pair of bloody eyes. His life was fading away quickly, but he wanted to see what Charlotte would show him. He hoped it was a holy item. Charlotte took his hand out of the pocket. He was holding a golden card. Angelio's expression suddenly changed. Xia Lei waved the pass and said slowly, "Do you see it? I have a pass. I wanted to tell you, but you didn't want to hear it at all. Do you think it's useful for you to destroy it? I will go to the Holy Palace now and take what I want. You should go too. Don't hold on anymore." Puff! Angelio spat out a mouthful of blood, then his neck tilted, and he died. He could have held on for a little longer, but the pass that Charlotte showed him really pissed him off. Charlotte walked past Angelio's body and didn't look at him again. After leaving the church, Charlotte quickly passed through the stone path. He saw the bodies of 4 black-robed gunmen under the rock wall. It was obviously the work of Akiko Tsukino. To enter the Holy Palace, one needed a pass and a document signed by Angelio himself. The 4 black-robed gunmen were obviously the last checkpoint to guard the Holy Palace. However, Akiko Tsukino had solved this problem for him in advance. It was just that she didn't know the secret behind the rock wall. She's really efficient. I must give her some rewards after this operation. Charlotte thought to himself. He soon came to the end of the rock wall. The rock wall was smooth and flat, at least 200 or 300 square meters. There was a carving of a knight on a horse on the cliff. The horse was red and wore silver armor. It held a silver long sword and looked very majestic and ferocious. However, under the cover of the knight's helmet, the knight on the red horse had no face at all. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, riding a red horse and carrying a sword, isn't that the horseman of the apocalypse who represents war and persecution? But Angelio didn't mention a word about the horseman of the apocalypse when he died, but he mentioned something about the one God. The one God. He suddenly thought of the prehistoric one, but this thought gave him a fright. The prehistoric one lived through the Ice Age and then became the god of the Knights Hospitaller. Was this possible? Forget it. I'll think about these questions later. Now is not the time to think about this kind of problem. Charlotte cleared his mind and began to look for a place to insert the pass. He soon found something similar to an ATM card slot in one of the horseshoes of the knight statue. He didn't rush to insert the pass. Instead, he used his X-ray vision. Even he himself was shocked by what he saw. This rock wall turned out to be a metal gate disguised as a rock wall. It had an extremely complex electronic and mechanical structure inside. If he didn't have the pass, he could actually go in, but he would probably have to use the Hellhound cannon to blast it a few times. Charlotte inserted the pass into the card slot. After a few seconds, the metal gate slowly opened. It slid into the mountain, and an arched passage slowly appeared. The passage was not long, only 10 meters deep. The rock wall was carved very smooth. There was no light inside because there was no air. But this didn't prevent him from seeing the situation inside with the faint light outside. At the end of the passage was an arched space that looked like a church's worship hall. Charlotte took off his tactical flashlight and walked in with the help of the tactical flashlight. On both sides of the passage, there were also tall and majestic statues of knights with holy faces. They looked like they were alive and could brandish the cold weapons in their hands at any time to attack the intruder. Charlotte came to the arched space at the end of the passage. There was no statue of Jesus Christ or the Virgin Mary here, but in the place where it should be dedicated to the gods stood a silver armor. It was full of cracks, and there was a hole in the helmet, as if it was pierced by a sword or a spear. It stood there quietly, motionless, but it gave people a feeling that it was alive. At the same time, it released an ancient and mysterious aura. In front of it, people always had a strange feeling that something bad was about to happen. Charlotte walked toward it. When he came to the side of the armor, his eyes suddenly moved to an artificially carved stone wall behind the silver armor. There was an oil painting on the stone wall. Seeing the content of the painting, Charlotte felt like he was struck by lightning and couldn't move. Chapter 880. The person in the painting was the prehistoric one. He wore a set of silver armor and held a silver longsword in one hand and a silver helmet in the other. His expression was natural and serene, and he was extremely dignified. He looked like an ancient king or even a god. Xiale suddenly recalled the words that Angelio muttered before his death, "The only God that guards the world. I'm martyred for you. Please guide me back to the kingdom of heaven." The one God. Wasn't this the prehistoric one? Now it seemed that the one who rode a red horse through the holy city of Jerusalem during the Crusades was not a horseman of the apocalypse, but the one. The one who fought with him was probably Zhu Xianyue. The prehistoric one said in the Book of Iron that he searched for a long time and went to many places. This was a vague concept. People who only had a lifespan of a few decades or 100 years might think that it was only a few years or 10 years. But for someone who had lived through the Ice Age and had a lifespan of several million years, a very, very long time was definitely not just a few years or 10 years. It could be tens of thousands of years, or even millions of years. Charlotte remembered what Da Vinci wrote in his notebook with invisible ink. Am I the smartest person in the world? No, if I were the smartest person in the world, I would be able to unlock the secret of God's metal. In my opinion, it is as mysterious as she is and does not belong to this world. 30 years ago, she appeared in front of me. She made me different. 30 years have passed, and my search has been fruitless. I am old and will die soon, but she is still so young and shows no signs of aging. I think she is an angel. It is a part of the angel sword. She is an angel who fell to the mortal world, and her angel sword was destroyed. She is looking for the traces of God and fighting against demons. But this is destined to be a dangerous path full of thorns. Charlotte's mind became active. The it in this passage was obviously the silver metal. But now it seemed that Zhu Xianyue did not tell him the truth. He always thought it was a part of the sword, but the truth was that it was part of a set of battle armor. However, this armor did not belong to Zhu Xianyue. It was the only one of its kind in the prehistoric era. The prehistoric one relied on his armor to fight against Zhu Xianyue. She wanted Da Vinci to decipher it so that she could find a flaw and defeat the prehistoric one. She always came back with injuries, and every time she would bring back some mineral powder and smear on the canvas. I asked her what the mineral powder was, but she never told me. I also asked her why she painted such a strange picture. She said that if she died, one day someone would come here and wake her up. I can't understand such a thing, just like I can't understand the world of God. She never told me what she was fighting for, or who her enemies were. She left the labyrinth again and again, and every time she returned, she would be injured. She never gives up, but I can't help her. The last time she came back was a night without moon or stars. This time she was hurt very badly. She lost her body. I can't understand how she can still exist, but that's how God is. She told me that she was going to die, and she asked me to do something for her. After she left, I sealed the labyrinth and finished all the things she asked me to do. Charlotte's brain automatically sketched out some scenes. The battle between Zhu Xianyue and the prehistoric era was intense. The armor that the prehistoric era relied on to fight was badly damaged, and Zhu Xianyue was also heavily injured. It was a tough battle. Not only did the prehistoric era realize that he was going to die, but Zhu Xianyue also seemed to realize that she was going to die. So she started to collect the energy that could resurrect her, and had Da Vinci prepare for his resurrection. Past events and conjectures appeared in his mind, rolling and tangling, and he could not rest for a moment. Although there was no direct evidence to prove it, he already had a conclusion in his mind. That was, Zhu Xianyue's opponent was the prehistoric era, and the battle between the two ended in mutual destruction. The prehistoric era died, but because Zhu Xianyue was in the form of pure energy, she was prepared to resurrect before she died. But what did the prehistoric era prepare for? This question popped up in Charlotte's mind, and it also made him think of the AE capsule, the ancient alloy shard, and the compass that searched for the shard. These things definitely had something to do with the prehistoric era. There was no need for evidence, because the mysterious energy in his body was the evidence, and it was also the only reason he could decipher the contents of the Book of Iron. Let's say the prehistoric era left the AE capsule before he died, and it ended up in my hands, creating the person I am now. And am I the next generation of the prehistoric era? The prehistoric era also called me that in the Book of Iron and the Bronze Treasure Book, and it seemed to be the truth. However, Zhu Xianyue also used to call me that, and at that time, she was not complete. According to the relationship between the inheritance of abilities, I was even her enemy, the only enemy. But why didn't she attack me, and even help me through all the difficulties? Such a hypothesis appeared in Charlotte's mind, but he could not understand some of the questions. Among the difficulties that Zhu Xianyue had helped him through, the Japanese operation was one of them. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have been able to escape from the siege of dozens of armed men from the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. He and Long Bing would have died in that sea. The second was naturally the operation at the Tavong Snow Mountain in the Shi province. If not for her, Heath and Tangyuan would have died on that snow mountain. If they were destined to be enemies, why would she help him? A new question popped up in Charlotte's mind. Was the prehistoric era not telling the truth, or did Zhu Xinhua lie to me? No matter who it was, the information they left behind might not be true. Also, what is the identity of the black-robed man? Is he one of Zhu Xuanyue's unfriendly kind? Or is he related to the prehistoric era? What kind of role does he play in this series of events? He thought of that night in Paris, France, when he was a guest at my Hattori's house, and it was a banquet with the Hongmen. However, just as he subdued the Hattori family, a mysterious phone call came, and a woman's voice reminded him to escape. After that, the black-robed man appeared for the first time, and he almost lost his life. Was that phone call from Zhu Xinhua? He had always suspected this, but he did not get an answer from Zhu Xinhua. When Zhu Xinhua woke up in India, her IQ was not even 10 years old, and she was in a daze. During the process of her resurrection, the black-robed man had obviously attacked her, causing that violent explosion. From this, it could be seen that Zhu Xinhua and the black-robed man were enemies. The black-robed man, Zhu Xinhua, the prehistoric era, these three characters alternated in his mind, forming a triangle, and he seemed to be a prisoner trapped in the middle of this iron triangle. Looks like I still have to find Zhu Xinhua to solve this mystery. I wonder where she is now. Langley, in America? Or is she somewhere else? Charlotte could not help but miss her. So many things had happened between him and her. It was no longer as simple as enemy or a friend. However, even though he missed Zhu Xinhua, he was not worried about Zhu Xuanyue's safety at all. Even though her IQ was less than 10 years old, in terms of her ability, even the scariest villain in the world was just an ant compared to her. For a moment, Charlotte shook his head and chased away all the doubts and conjectures in his mind. This trip to the Holy Palace was the most rewarding one for him. Even though he still could not solve the final mystery, he did not expect to solve all the problems here. And now it was time to leave. He took off the black robe he was wearing and laid it flat on the ground. Then, he dismantled the armor on the wooden frame and put it into the black robe. The entire armor weighed less than 10 kilograms, very light. This was not surprising to him, because he understood the structure of this silver metal. Putting the armor on his shoulder, Charlotte turned back to look at the prehistoric era's portrait on the stone wall. He said one sentence: "Whether or not my ability originated from you, I want to tell you that you are you, and I am me. I will not become anyone. I will only be myself." In the oil painting, the prehistoric era seemed to be looking at Charlotte with a strange gaze. Charlotte retracted his gaze and turned to leave. On the way back, he did not see a single person, but when he arrived at the dock, he saw many old people, women, and children. They stood on the heads of their horses and looked at the burning ships and the corpses of the paladins floating in the sea. Charlotte's strategy of luring the tiger away from the mountain had attracted most of the elites of the Knights Hospitaller. They found nothing at the Mediterranean Hotel and then called Angelio. Angelio told them that he was at the Holy Church, so the elites of the Knights Hospitaller rushed back. But they did not know that the ships at the port had been rigged with military explosive devices. Although he did not see the situation with his own eyes, he could imagine that Akiko Tsukino, who was hiding in the dark, gently pressed the remote control, and the whole port was plunged into a sea of fire. In the face of a strong enemy, like the Knights Hospitaller, brains were more useful than force. Charlotte bypassed the crowd, came to the edge of the port, and then quietly plunged into the sea. A woman in a diving suit swam towards him from the bottom of the sea. She handed him an oxygen tank and an oxygen mask and helped him put them on. This woman was Akiko Tsukino. Her body looked particularly sexy in the diving suit, especially her perky butt, which gave people a feeling of power and temptation. She looked the same when he came, but Charlotte did not notice this. Now, it seemed that because he had finally obtained the protective suit, his mood had changed. When he relaxed and was happy, he thought of other things. Fortunately, it was dark underwater, and Akiko Tsukino did not seem to notice where Charlotte was looking at her body. After she helped Charlotte put on the oxygen tank, she untied the diving motorcycle fixed to the rock and drove along the waterway to the Mediterranean Sea. Charlotte followed closely behind. When the diving motorcycle started to move, he looked back at the port. He saw the flames and the blurred figures of the crowd. He knew that the Knights Hospitaller had not died out. This was just a headquarters, and there were only some fanatical believers. But no matter what, he would not come to this place a second time. If I destroy this place, the person who will thank me the most will probably be the Walton, right? He has now become the real leader of the Knights Hospitaller. I hope he is a smart person, and it is best that he does not come looking for trouble with me again, Charlotte thought to himself. The sea stretched out in his field of vision, and the waves rolled. A dark yacht floated quietly on the sea. Chapter 881. 2 days later, China. Thunder Horse Army Factory, Underground Laboratory. Charlotte put on the silver armor piece by piece. This process took him about half an hour. In fact, he only needed a few minutes to put it on, but it was too tattered. He had to be careful, afraid that it would fall to the ground and break some part, or he didn't believe that it would knock off a piece. Finally, it was the helmet. He placed the silver metal he had brought out of the underground maze into the hole on the helmet. Sure enough, the two matched perfectly. It wasn't a part of the angel's sword at all, but a part of the helmet. He stuck a piece of transparent tape on the damaged part of the helmet, repaired the helmet, and put it on his head. Then, he moved in front of a mirror that he had brought with him. He could no longer see his face in the mirror. He could not even see his fingers or neck. The armor covered him from head to toe. It wasn't wrong to call it armor, but it was also reasonable to call it protective clothing. There wasn't much of a problem. Its style wasn't the style of medieval crusader armor, but more like a Gothic full-body armor. There were no unnecessary decorations on the helmet. It was just an oval. If one ignored the damaged areas, it was as smooth as an egg. Therefore, in terms of the style of the helmet, it had a bit of a sci-fi vibe. However, he knew that this was definitely not a Gothic full-body armor, nor was it the armor of any ancient dynasty. This was because humans were still unable to make its materials. It covered him from head to toe, but it weighed less than 10 pounds. After looking at it quietly for a while, Charlotte walked to the workbench. On the workbench was the ancient alloy box that was missing a corner, the compass, the bronze book, and a Viper pistol. Charlotte grabbed the Viper pistol and pressed the muzzle against his thigh. He only hesitated for 2 seconds before pulling the trigger. Bang! A gunshot rang out. The bullet hit the armor on his leg. Sparks flew, and the bullet was knocked to the side. When a pistol was fired at close range, the impact could sometimes even break the ribs of targets wearing bulletproof vests. However, he only felt a little bit of the impact, and the impact was almost negligible. It was like being flicked by a finger. The leg armor did not have any traces of being hit by a bullet. Even the sparks from before were caused by a copper bullet. What a terrifying defense. If I were to wear this armor in battle, its weight would be almost negligible to me, but it would be almost impossible for the enemy to kill me with a gun. I'm sure that even Barrett's anti-material sniper would only be able to leave a small mark on this armor and not penetrate it. Charlotte was shocked. However, what shocked him was not the test result of his shot, but the association that he drew from it. Even with such an armor, Zhu Xinyue still managed to punch a hole in the helmet. Her body was also full of cracks. One could imagine how terrifying her combat power was at her peak. It was unimaginable. A few minutes later, Charlotte's attention shifted to the box that was missing a corner. His mood also became solemn. The armor or protective suit was finally in his hands. His original purpose of getting it was to wear it and enter the world of the box. Now that the armor was on him and the box was in front of him, he could go in at any time if he wanted to. However, when the idea of going in and taking a look came up, he hesitated. He did not have the courage to do so. This was not a decision to put on pajamas and enter the bedroom, nor was it a decision to put on a bathrobe and enter the bathroom. This was a decision to go from one world to another. What if he went in and could not come out? What if he went in and got lost in that world? What if he went in and died? Every one of these consequences scared him. He did experiment with the fragment, but it was only an experiment. He did not go in with his whole body. As long as there was a little uncertainty, if he went in rashly, it might bring disaster. He didn't know why. Just when he was hesitating, several women's faces suddenly appeared in his mind. Long Bing's, Liang Xiao's, Jiang Rui's, Shinta Tianins, Tang Yuyin's, and Fan Fan's. These women had entangled feelings with him. He used to have a headache when he thought about his relationship with them, but now they produced a force that stopped him from taking risks, and it was very strong. Then he thought of his father, Xia Changhe, and thought of Xia Shui. Finally, he thought of his career. It was not his career alone. It was related to the hope of the rise of a country's military industry. Forget it. I'll wait and learn more. When I'm confident, I'll consider whether I should go in and take a look. What's more, it is so broken now. It will affect its performance. He found some excuses for himself and finally gave up. Half an hour later, he left the underground laboratory. It was already close to winter. The sky in the north was dark and gloomy, giving people a depressing feeling. He glanced at the sky and then walked to the office building. He secretly said in his heart, 3 years, if I only have 3 years left in my life, then in these 3 years, I must build the Thunder Horse military factory into a world-class military enterprise. In that case, even if I die, my life will not be in vain. 3 years, 3 years. I also want to have a few children. Thinking of children, he couldn't help but smile. I seem to have Fan. The rest are Liang Xiao and Jiang Rui. During this time, I must make them pregnant. Thinking of Jiang Rui, he took out his mobile phone and prepared to call Jiang Rui. Coincidentally, when he was about to dial, a call came in. It was none other than Jiang Rui, whom he wanted to call. He smiled and slid the answer button. Rui, I was just about to call you. How have you been recently? Are you lying to a little girl? Charlotte, you haven't called me for so long, and you haven't come to me. Do you want to die? Jiang Rui's voice was still the same as before. Charlotte smiled. In this world, the only woman who would be so fierce to him was Jiang Rui. She was like this when he was young, and she was like this when he grew up. She was like this when she wasn't his woman, and she was still like this when she became his woman. However, he didn't mind at all. This was Jiang Rui. If one day she wasn't like this, then she wouldn't be Jiang Rui. Where are you? Of course I'm in the company, Charlotte said. I'm also in your company. It was Jiang Rui's voice. I just got out of the car. Are you in the office building? I'll come to you right away. Charlotte said, wait a minute. I'm not in the office building. I'll come to pick you up right away. He hung up the phone and walked quickly to the parking lot. Around the corner of the office building, he saw Jiang Rui coming from the direction of the parking lot. Dressed in a policewoman's uniform, her breasts filled the coat, and her buttocks filled the uniform pants. Coupled with her beautiful face, she was indescribably fresh and attractive. Jiang Rui also saw Charlotte, and the corners of her mouth slightly curled up. It seemed that she was smiling, but also seemed to be rebuking him. Her pair of black eyes were also full of the excitement of being released from the pain of lovesickness, as well as the affection of a family member. In short, although the two hadn't said a word, their eyes seemed to have said thousands of words. Charlotte walked towards her. Jiang Rui also walked towards Charlotte. After 2 steps, she suddenly ran. Her breasts were shaking, and her buttocks were also shaking. Her running posture was very attractive. In the blink of an eye, she ran to Charlotte. Without saying anything, she opened her arms and held Charlotte in her arms. Her tears flowed out uncontrollably. You didn't call me, and you didn't come to me. I thought you forgot me and didn't want me anymore. Charlotte's heart suddenly softened. His hands also moved to Jiang Rui's slender waist. He held her tightly in his arms and said in her ear, "Don't cry. You're a policewoman. If a policewoman cries, people will laugh at her. I don't care. If I want to cry, I'll cry." Jiang Rui buried her head in Charlotte's shoulder. She didn't want to let go of him, and she didn't want others to see her crying. Charlotte couldn't do anything to her. He could only hug her and let her release the emotions that had accumulated in her heart. He and Jiang Rui were childhood sweethearts, but the feeling of love had always been very weak. At that time, he only got together with her because she took the absolute initiative. But he was the kind of man who developed feelings over time. Jiang Rui had been with him for so long, so their feelings naturally became deeper. The place where the two hugged was under the office building, which was also a very lively place with people coming and going. In this way, there are naturally a lot of people watching. There were people upstairs and on the ground. In short, as soon as they saw her, they couldn't bear to look away. Some discussions also came out. Chairman Xia is really amazing. When did he get a policewoman? You're so ignorant. Do you know who that policewoman is? That's Jiang Rui, our Chairman Xia's childhood sweetheart. Isn't our Chairman Xia engaged to that Fan? He's hugging his ex-girlfriend in front of so many people. What if Fan hears about it? Won't they get into a fight? Do you think it's you? Do you know Mr. Liang? Mr. Liang is the housekeeper of our Rema group. The real housekeeper didn't say anything. How can it be Fan's turn? This relationship is really messy. You're not qualified to be so messy. Should stop talking. Mr. Liang is coming out. He really came out. This time, Chairman Xia is in trouble. Amidst the worried gazes and discussions about Xia Lei, Liang Xiao, who was upstairs, poked her head out for the guardrail and said loudly, "Old Xia, Rui is here. Why don't you invite her up to have a seat? Go home and hug her. I'll ask the chef to cook." She already called him Old Xia. Was there a need to explain their relationship? But Old Liang asked her Old Xia and Jiang Rui to hug her at home. Moreover, he said it in front of so many employees. His boldness was so cool. Jiang Rui let go of Charlotte. She looked up at Liang Xiao and smiled. "Xiao, long time no see. How are you?" Liang Xiao also smiled sweetly. "Rui, come up. Let's talk." Liang Xiao knew Jiang Rui's position in Charlotte's heart. Jiang Rui also knew Liang Xiao's position in Charlotte's heart. Both women were well aware of it, so there was no conflict between them. Xia Lei looked around, and the employees who were watching the show came back to their senses. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. Chapter 882. The office was filled with warmth and harmony. "Rui, have some tea." Liang Xiao made a cup of rose tea for Jiang Rui. Jiang Rui looked very embarrassed. "Xiao, why did you make tea for me personally? Why do we two sisters care about this?" Liang Xiao said. Two sisters. These words were obviously not said casually. Although Jiang Rui was a careless woman, she could still understand these words. She held the tea that Liang Xiao made for her, and her face was also full of smiles. "Yes, we two sisters don't stand on ceremony in the future. We should join forces, and if someone bullies us, we will deal with him together." Liang Xiao glanced at Charlotte and said with a smile, "He is so fierce. We are not his opponent, even if we join forces. Let's just accept our fate. Who told us to be women?" Charlotte said, "Yes, if you marry a chicken, follow the chicken, and if you marry a dog, follow the dog. How can you join forces to deal with your man?" Ba. Liang Xiao blushed and spat. "Don't you feel ashamed? Who is your woman? You are too shameless, aren't you? You actually said such words in front of the two of us. What do you want?" Jiang Rui obviously stood on the same line as Liang Xiao. Charlotte's mouth showed a trace of a bad smile. "I'm not just saying it. I also want you to be the mother of my child. I have decided that I should train my successor as soon as possible." Go, you are really shameless." Liang Xiao's face was even redder. Yes, really shameless." Jiang Rui's face was also red. Although the two women knew each other's existence and could accept each other, it was also a private matter. It was enough for them to understand each other tacitly, but Charlotte said it in front of them, and even involved the matter of having children. Women were, after all, women. They were thin-skinned, so it was inevitable that they would feel shy and embarrassed. Charlotte said in all seriousness, "Are you going to give birth or not?" Liang Xiao said shyly, "It's rare for Rui to come to the capital. You should give birth with her." Jiang Rui stamped her feet. I can't talk to you anymore. I'm going to see Uncle Xia. I'm going to tell him that you bullied me. She really left. She really couldn't stand Charlotte's slanderous remarks. Liang Xiao chased after him. I'll walk you out. The two women left Charlotte alone in the office. Even if he wanted to talk nonsense, no one would listen to him. Watching the two women walk out with their arms around each other's shoulders, Charlotte's gaze stopped on their buttocks, and his heart was filled with a comfortable feeling. They made him forget his stress and troubles. They also made him feel that life was colorful and made him cherish everything he had now. Charlotte sat quietly in the office for a while. Then he left the office building and went to the tank workshop. Rema Group's first tank was about to be born, and he had to be busy for a while. He was busy, and the day passed unknowingly. Sylvia and Anina had to stay in the workshop to work overtime. Charlotte couldn't convince the two German workaholics, so he had to go back to Ping and residence alone. The family had dinner together. Xia Shui and Ryu Yungnam slipped away early in the morning, followed by Xia Changhe. I'm going to the workshop to see if the two German girls need anything. You guys talk. When Xia Changhe left, Liang Xiao also found an excuse to slip away. Charlotte's voice was very gentle. You actually don't have to go. Liang Xiao glared at Charlotte and then leaned close to his ear. You want to, but don't even think about it. Charlotte, Rui, I'm leaving. Liang Xiao said goodbye to Jiang Rui. Jiang Rui's face was red. She nodded her head awkwardly and softly said, She knew that this was Liang Xiao deliberately leaving space for her and Charlotte. Although such a thing gave people a weird feeling, she was actually quite grateful to Liang Xiao. Only Charlotte and Jiang Rui were left in the dining room. The two of them looked at each other affectionately, and time seemed to have returned to the past. At that time, the two of them were at the same table. Her bag was always filled with snacks to tempt him to ask for them, and then she would find all kinds of reasons not to give them to him. At that time, Jiang Rui was embarrassed by Charlotte's stare. She lowered her head and said, What are you looking at? Haven't you seen enough? How can I see enough? I won't be able to see enough for a lifetime. Charlotte's voice was gentle and pleasant. You only know how to lie. How many women have you cheated? Jiang Rui looked a little jealous. Charlotte laughed. He got up from his seat and carried Jiang Rui, then left the dining room and walked towards his room. The light shone on the road, and the two of them were left on the ground. There was you in me, and I in you. They couldn't be separated. If only you could carry me like this for the rest of your life. Jiang Rui soon stopped thinking about how many women Charlotte had cheated. She wrapped her arms around Charlotte's neck, and her whole body softened in his arms. Promise me, will you carry me like this for the rest of your life? Charlotte laughed and said, Are you trying to tire me to death? I'll definitely die of exhaustion if you keep hugging me like this. Are you going to carry me or not? Jiang Rui bit Charlotte's ear. She looked fierce, but her little mouth was powerless. Charlotte laughed out loud. Okay. I'll carry you. I'll carry you, okay? I'll carry you in the yard for the whole night. Jiang Rui was originally laughing, but after hearing the second half of the sentence, she couldn't laugh anymore. She said coquettishly, Don't you dare. Then what do you want? I want you. Am I not in front of you? I want you to do that. She bit Charlotte's ear and muttered something. Charlotte said, I can't hear you clearly. What did you say? The two of them bickered, and before they knew it, they had arrived at Charlotte's room. The warm bed, the ambiguous light, it was full of romance. The two of them were entangled together. At this time, any words were superfluous. In a time. What's that? An antidote. I'm not poisoned. Why are you giving me an antidote? Jiang Rui looked confused. Charlotte said in her ear, It's not you who's poisoned, it's me. Then, he muttered in her ear again. Jiang Rui's jade dimples suddenly turned red. I'm sad that I can't get pregnant. So that's the reason. My mother asked me to go for a checkup a few days ago, and I'm fine. I'm on leave this time to let you go for a checkup. I didn't expect you to be ready. You're so bad. Then I'll show you. Charlotte pounced on her. It was a ridiculous night and an indescribable romantic story. It was dawn. The handsome man had already woken up, while the beautiful woman was still sleeping in bed. When Charlotte left the room, he covered Jiang Rui with a quilt. But before he walked out of the door, Jiang Rui kicked the quilt away. What's more, she rolled over, and one of her long legs was pressed on the quilt. That plump and exquisite big white ball was exposed to the air without any cover. Charlotte smiled bitterly and shook his head. His mind was full of the bad things he had done. He was too lazy to cover her with the quilt. He opened the door and walked out. The morning sun was bright and beautiful. It was rare for the capital to have such good weather. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Charlotte took out his phone and glanced at it. The number on the screen surprised him because it was from Italy. He quickly thought of a person, and he swiped the answer button. "It's me, Charlotte. Mr. Walton, what's up? I'm using a new card, but you can guess that it's me. You're really a very smart person." Walton's voice came from the phone. "Tell me, why are you looking for me? You've killed so many of our people. Why do you think I'm looking for you?" "Mr. Walton, you can't talk nonsense. I can hire a lawyer to sue you in Italy." Charlotte's voice turned cold. "Perhaps I can also get justice in other ways." Walton was silent for a moment before he said, "Mr. Xia, I don't want to quarrel with you. I'm calling to ask for a truce." "Truce? You don't want to?" Walton's voice was a little nervous and angry. Charlotte suddenly laughed. "Mr. Walton, we've never been enemies, let alone had a war. How can there be a truce? In the Battle of the Holy Palace in Malta, almost all the elites of the Knights Hospitaller were killed. The current Knights Hospitaller could not be compared with the previous Knights Hospitaller. If Charlotte continued to attack at this time, he didn't need to do it himself. He only needed to send the Zodiac Squad and then spend money to hire some mercenaries. He could completely eradicate the Knights Hospitaller. This was the reason why Walton called. He was not thinking about revenge now, but self-preservation. "If you say so, then I'm relieved." Walton said, "Our holy relic," Charlotte said coldly. "Mr. Walton, sometimes it's not good to be too greedy. I gave you $50 million and so much equipment, but all I got in return was your enmity and framing me. If you've suffered any losses, you deserve it. I don't owe you anything." Walton was silent again, then he sighed. "Well, let's leave the problem for future generations to solve. Congratulations, Mr. Walton. You're now the real leader of the Knights Hospitaller. If you want, we can be very good friends. You're welcome to do business with me." Charlotte said, "Thank you, Mr. Xia. Goodbye." Walton hung up the phone. Xiaolei felt a weight lifted from his heart. Walton personally called for a truce, which was equivalent to eliminating the trouble of the Knights Hospitaller. Walton was a very practical man, and he knew what was right in this period of time. Leave it for future generations to solve? Charlotte recalled Walton's words, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. 3 years later, I don't even know if I'll still be around. Even if the Knights Hospitaller recover and want to take revenge on me and take back your holy relic, I'm afraid you won't have a chance, right?" Xiao Changhe came over, holding a folded map in his hand. Charlotte put away his phone and greeted him. "Dad." Xiao Changhe handed the map to Charlotte. "I've seen it. If you hadn't given me this map, I wouldn't have known that the headquarters of the FA organization is in Jalisco, Mexico." "What a joke. I'm also a member of the FA organization." He looked at Charlotte. "You found the headquarters of the FA organization. What are you going to do?" Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "The FA organization is not the Knights Hospitaller. I have to have a careful plan and be fully prepared. It's the Jalisco state of Mexico, the world of drug lords. Even the Mexican government doesn't dare to set foot there. It's not easy to eradicate the FA organization." Xiao Changhe patted Charlotte on the shoulder. "I know you have your reasons for wanting to eradicate the FA organization, but my reasons are the most important. You're worried that one day they'll come to me to settle the score. It doesn't matter, son. If they let go, you should let go too. I'll solve my own business. Don't worry about it. During this time, the FA organization has been very restrained. They haven't come to trouble me and you again, but they will always be a huge threat. Dad, I promise you that if I can let go, I will. If I can't, I'll eradicate the FA organization, no matter what the cost, Charlotte said. His eyes were firm. Let go. He hadn't really thought about it. If he was going to leave this world eventually, then before he left, he would remove all threats to his family. He wanted to create a safe and happy environment for his loved ones. Chapter 883. Are you tired? In the office, Liang Xiao had a mischievous smile on her face. Do you need me to massage your waist? Charlotte said with a smile. It's not like you don't know. Do I need it? Rui said she was going to call you last night. Liang Xiao was slightly stunned. Why did she call me? Charlotte said. She asked you to come and help. Only then did Liang Xiao react. Her pretty face suddenly turned red, and then she punched Charlotte. Go to hell. You're doing bad things to make a child. Why should I help? There was a trace of resentment in her eyes. I'm already suffering a lot by following you like this. Do you still want me to sleep with you with other women? You're such a bad guy. How could I fall in love with you in the first place? Charlotte reached out and took her into his arms. He teased, don't women like bad men? Besides, this is a special situation. She really wanted to call you for help. I'm not lying to you. I was just too embarrassed to stop her. Liang Xiao, talking about these bad things with him, she wouldn't be able to talk about it until it was dark. Charlotte's hand quietly reached into his senior sister's uniform skirt. What brand is this stocking? It's so nice. Liang Xiao's ears turned red. She wanted to pinch his hand, but she couldn't bear to do it. Yes, the former Charlotte was very honest and shy in that regard. But now, Charlotte was already a wily old fox. Not only did he know how to coax women, but he also had abnormal fighting power. She couldn't tell whether she loved the former Charlotte more or the current Charlotte more, but she was sure that she was really happy with him. As long as she was happy, why should she care so much? Don't be like this. Be careful not to be seen. Liang Xiao couldn't stand it. What brand is that? Victoria's Secret. Didn't you buy it for me? Why ask when you already know? Let me see. Charlotte was about to lift it up. Just then, Qin Kaiwei suddenly walked in. When she saw Director Xia and the CEO come Madame Liang Xiao in the office, she turned around and said, Ahem, I didn't see anything. The two of them hurriedly separated from each other. Charlotte sat up straight and pretended to read some documents. Liang Xiao hurriedly tidied up her messy skirt. Only after she was done did she say, Secretary Qing, what's the matter? Only then did Qin Kaiwei turn around and say in all seriousness, Chairman Xia, Anina, and Sylvia asked me to invite you over. They've encountered a problem that they can't solve, and they want you to help them solve it. Oh, I got it. I'll be right there. Charlotte got up and left. Qin Kaiwei originally wanted to go with Charlotte, but when she glanced at Liang Xiao's unfriendly eyes, she dispelled the idea and said obediently, President Liang, is there anything you need me to do? Of course there is. Prepare a draft for the meeting for me, Liang Xiao said. Okay. Qin Kaiwei was really obedient. Liang Xiao secretly said in her heart, although I can't chase away Jiang Rui, Long Bing, and that Fan, there are only so many people in our family. There's no way for newcomers to enter our family. The Xiao family's door can only be opened by me. Walking out of the office building, Charlotte put a finger to his nostrils and sniffed it lightly. Then he couldn't help but laugh. Victoria's Secret and Mary's Desire. Xiao, you said I'd become bad, but aren't you the same? But I like it. A man wearing a baseball cap suddenly walked over from the side. Charlotte glanced at him and stopped in his tracks. Boss, I have news about the person you asked me to investigate. He was Siamu, the intelligence expert of the Zodiac Squad. Charlotte was very excited, but he controlled his emotions. Where is she? America, Siamu said, but I don't have much information. I need to go to America personally. I need some money. How much do you need? 500,000 US dollars, Siamu said. I'll give you 1 million US dollars, Charlotte said. But remember, no matter what the situation is, don't go near her. No matter what danger she encounters, don't help her. You just need to monitor her and report to me. Siamu smiled. No problem. Go. Charlotte hugged him and then walked to the tank workshop. At the same time, America, Washington. A woman appeared on a street in Washington. Her clothes were dirty, her face was dirty, and there were some weeds stuck to her hair. She looked like a refugee who had just been smuggled in. However, even though she was dirty, she was still an eye-catching place. Not for any other reason, but because she was too beautiful. Her face looked like it had been painted by an artist, and her figure was extremely sexy. Even according to European aesthetic standards, she was definitely a top-grade stunner at the top of a beautiful pyramid. People came and went on the street. Many people stopped to look at the dirty woman, and it was inevitable that some people would talk in low voices. What happened to this woman? It's so strange. With her looks and body, she could get a long-term contract with any modeling company. Did she smuggle him by ship? I don't know. Maybe it's street art. Anyway, I've never seen such a beautiful woman wandering the streets. While the people were talking, the woman walked to an old man and asked in Chinese, "Old man, do you know how to get to Langley?" The old man shook his head and said in English, "Sorry, I don't understand you. Are you speaking Chinese?" The woman blinked and then patted the seeds on her head. Suddenly, she giggled. "I can understand you, old man. I'm asking you how to get to Langley. Can you tell me? You're rude. You should call me sir. How about I call you grandpa? Is there a problem here?" The old man pointed at his own head. The woman's eyes instantly turned cold. Just then, a black young man and a white young man walked over. "Hey, old man, go away." The black young man said fiercely. The old man followed them. The white young man smiled and said to the woman, "Miss, are you going to Langley? We can take you there." The woman smiled. "Yes, I'm going to Langley. Thank you, big brothers. You're so nice." The black young man and the white young man looked at each other, and both of them had thoughtful smiles on their faces. The black young man said, "Then come with us. I'll drive you there." "Okay, thank you, big brother." The woman looked very happy. The black young man and the white young man took the woman to an old Ford car. Sigh. On the street, someone sighed. Turns out it's a woman with a screw loose. She jumped into the trap just like that. That black guy and that B** star got lucky, a middle-aged man said angrily. He seemed to be annoyed that he did not seize the opportunity to help the woman with the screw loose. Amidst the discussion, the Ford car had already driven in the direction of the slums. In the blink of an eye, it was far away. "Miss, what's your name?" In the car, the black young man asked tentatively, but his eyes were wandering around the woman's full chest and thighs. The black young man who was driving was already like that. The white young man, sitting next to the woman, unscrupulously put his hand on the woman's thigh. The woman immediately frowned. "Tell me, what's your name? Where are you from?" The white young man's hand was very naughty. The woman suddenly grabbed the white young man's hand. "Why are you touching my leg when you're asking questions? My leg is not for others to touch." "Then who are you letting touch?" The white young man laughed. He felt that this woman was not only good-looking, sexy, but also interesting. "Uncle Xia. I only let Uncle Xia touch," the woman said very seriously. "I did something wrong. My Uncle Xia asked me to come to Langley to wait for him. I know. You will definitely forgive me." "What did you do wrong?" "Your Uncle Xia is really cruel," the white young man said. "I'm hungry. I want to eat," the woman said. "You're hungry, and he punished you like this? Your Uncle Xia is really bad. I'm a good person. How about I give you a banana?" The white young man unzipped his pants and could not help but laugh. The woman looked at the white young man. "Are you really going to give it to me?" "Of course, I'll give it to you. Eat it." The white young man could not wait to grab the woman's hair and press her head down. The woman suddenly reached out and grabbed the white young man's wrist. With a hard pull, the white young man's arm suddenly fell off his arm. "Ah!" The white young man screamed, but his scream did not last for more than 2 seconds. His face had already lost all color. His body tilted to the back seat of the sofa, and he did not move again. You. The black young man hurriedly stepped on the brake and reached out to open the door. He wanted to escape, but before his hand could open the door, his head drooped down. If he could see his brain, he would definitely be horrified to find that his brain was shrinking and rotting at the speed of burning plastic. A minute later, the woman took a deep breath and a smile appeared on her face. It's so comfortable, so warm, but my stomach is still hungry. She touched her lower abdomen and sighed. Uncle Xia, I know you don't like me to eat, but I'm hungry. You asked me to wait for you at Langley. When are you coming to find me? I miss you so much. I promise you, I won't eat anything. I only eat people who want to lie to me. Okay? I'll take that as a yes. Let's pinky swear, huh? The car reeked of blood and the woman with a childlike face. The scene was very strange. The woman was Zhu Xinhua. She got out of the car and looked around. Then, she walked to a roadside court. In the court, a few black young men were peddling illegal pills. An old man took a second look and was immediately threatened. Zhu Xinhua walked toward the few black young men. As she walked, she muttered, "Lie to me, lie to me, lie to me. You must lie to me." A few minutes later, "Uncle, I'm hungry. Is there anything for me to eat?" There is. Do you want to eat a big banana? I want to eat. Haha, let's go. I'll take you to eat bananas. Okay. How do I get to Langley? I'll send you there after you eat the bananas. Ha ha ha. Uncle, you're so nice. The few black young men surrounded Zhu Xinyue and walked toward a small wooden house. Sometimes, the devil was right beside you, and you gave the devil a reason to attack. Chapter 884. Zhang Rui lived in the Peace Residence. She and Xia Changhe had no barriers to communicate or get along with each other because Xia Changhe watched her and Charlotte grow up together. Those years of Uncle Xia weren't just for show. They were all exchanged for the foundation of father-in-law. As for Zhang Rui, needless to say, the two were neighbors. Zhang Rui gave Xia Shui a lot of candy when she was a child, so this sister was also bought over early on. In fact, putting aside Liang Xiao's role and prestige in the Thunder Horse military factory, if only comparing family members, Zhang Rui was actually more like a housekeeper. After solving the problem of the night's hospitaler, he didn't have the courage and determination to put on the protective suit and enter the box world. After 2 days of adjustment, Charlotte devoted all his attention to work. The first tank of the Thunder Horse military factory was already in the final technical stage, and all the technical problems also fell on his shoulders. In addition, he also had to take care of the new material project and artificial intelligence technology. Although Eugene Li and Huang Shuwen could both be independent, the two didn't have a superbrain like him after all. Whether it was tank technology, new materials, or artificial intelligence technology, in fact, it was inseparable from his brain. His role was equivalent to the CPU in the computer. He was indispensable. Therefore, his life also entered a 2.1-line mode. He went to the company to work in the morning and rested at home at night. However, this rest was theoretical rest. There were 2 women who wanted to be a mother living at home, and he was the only man who could help them achieve their wishes. One could imagine the weight of the burden and responsibility on his shoulders. At night, either Zhang Rui or Liang Xiao were in his room. There was not a single idle night. Perhaps considering that he had been too diligent and tired recently, Zhang Rui would make soup for him at home every day, and her soup would always have nourishing ingredients such as deer antler, tiger penis, and ginseng. Drinking it once wasn't a big deal, but drinking it in the morning, bringing it to the office in the afternoon, and at home in the evening, she spooned it for him. He almost vomited. This kind of life lasted for a week. It was not until Jiang Rui returned to Haizhu after her vacation. On the day that Jiang Rui met Haizhu, Charlotte personally drove her to the airport. "I really don't want to leave." Jiang Rui sighed when they arrived at the airport lounge. "Then don't go back," Charlotte said to her. "Really?" Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte with shining eyes. Charlotte smiled. "Of course it's true. Can't I afford to raise you?" Jiang Rui smiled. "I know you can afford to support me, and I also want to stay, but forget it. It's best to maintain the status quo. Otherwise, you'll get tired of being with me every day." "Charlotte, what's with your expression?" Jiang Rui suddenly realized what she had said. She hit Charlotte. "When I said I'll get tired of you, I didn't mean what you're thinking, you pervert." Xia Lei chuckled. "You can decide for yourself. You can quit your current job and come to work with Xiao to help me out. You can also stay at home and not do anything. I'll support you. If you don't want to come for now, I won't force you. Anyway, whenever you want to come, just pack up and come. Don't think too much. Remember, we're a family." These were all heartwarming words. Jiang Rui's heart was filled with happiness. She threw herself into Charlotte's arms and hugged him tightly, unwilling to let go. After a while, she said, "I still have my current job. I can't do what Xiao can do. I have 8 days off every month. If you don't come to find me, I'll fly over to find you. As long as I can be with you, I'll be satisfied." What woman didn't want to live with a man she loved? She actually had her own considerations for making such a decision. Of course, it wasn't because she would get tired of him or something, but because she wasn't the only woman by Charlotte's side. If she stuck to Charlotte like a plaster, what would other women think of her? How would Charlotte get along with them? Even in such a situation, she was still thinking of Charlotte. She loved Charlotte. She loved everything. She had already accepted Charlotte's complicated and chaotic life. Her current state was actually the best for her. She couldn't fight against women like Liang Shiyao and Shinatianin, let alone a woman like Tang Yuyan. The smartest thing to do was to stay away from a battlefield. When she missed Charlotte, she could fly over and stay for a few days. What was wrong with that? "All right, I'm going in. You can go back too." Jiang Rui opened Charlotte's door and then helped Charlotte tidy up his suit and tie that she had messed up. "Remember to check your body when you get back. If you have it, don't go on dangerous missions and don't do strenuous exercise. Be careful not to affect the baby," Charlotte warned. Jiang Rui rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "You don't even know where your son is yet, and you're already biased towards him. My life is so bitter. In the future, you and your son will definitely bully me." Charlotte, Jiang Rui left. Whether or not there was a seed in her belly was something that could not be said clearly. But judging from Charlotte's performance and hard work over the past few days, it was very likely that he was. As he imagined Jiang Rui's pregnant face, he couldn't help but reveal a smile. As he drove back to the Thunderhorse Army factory, he was also thinking, Fan Fan is pregnant. If Rui and Xiao are also pregnant, then I will have 3 children. I wonder if Long Bing is willing to give birth to a child for me. If she is willing, then I will have 4 children. I will be rich all the time. How great would that be? Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Just as his imagination was running wild, his phone suddenly rang. Charlotte reached out to take a look. Then he slid the answer button and said with a smile, "Ah, Bing, I was thinking about you when you called." Hee hee. Long Bing laughed. "I'm not a 17 or 18-year-old girl. You can't fool me. You've been so busy recently. Do you still have time to miss me? Really, I was wondering if you would be willing to give birth to a little monkey or a little princess for me. Give birth to your head. I won't give birth to one for you." Long Bing changed the topic. "Come to 101 innings immediately. There are 2 people you will definitely want to meet." "Who?" Charlotte was a little curious. "You'll know when you come. I'll wait for you." Long Bing hung up. Charlotte sighed in his heart. Long Bing was good at everything, but she didn't want to have children. If a woman didn't have her own children, then her life would be incomplete. However, he understood Long Bing. After all, she was a woman who had dedicated everything to her country. Half an hour later, a Night 15 heavy off-road vehicle drove to the gate of 101 innings. This was a gift from Charlotte after he returned from Malta. It was worth 20 million, weighed nearly 6 tons, and was equipped with a V10 engine. Its overall performance was more powerful than any country's military off-road vehicle. Ordinary bullets couldn't penetrate its armor at all. It could even defend against RPG rockets and roadside bombs. Sitting in such a vehicle felt like sitting in a moving fortress. There was almost no need to consider any safety issues. When Charlotte and his Night 15 appeared at 101 innings, a strange look immediately focused on them. If for no other reason, it was because his car was just too cool. One had to know that one could only see it in Fast and Furious 5. It was Johnson's chariot. Tang Yuyan and Long Bing were also among the onlookers. "When did this guy buy this car? So vulgar." Tang Yuyan said that she still couldn't get over the shadow of that incident. So now she didn't like anything, especially anything related to Charlotte. Long Bing's eyes were shining as she looked at the Night 15 that stood out in the parking lot. I think it's very good. It's very cool. If only I had one. She liked the best weapons and the best off-road vehicles. She usually drove the most military off-road vehicle, but compared to Charlotte's Night 15, it was like the difference between a BYD and a Ferrari. Tang Yuyan glanced at Long Bing. You like it? That car is estimated to be worth 20 million yuan. How many lifetimes would you have to work to buy it? Stop dreaming. Even I wouldn't be willing to buy a car like that. It's almost as expensive as a plane. Only a prodigal like Charlotte would be willing to buy one. At this moment, Charlotte walked over. With a toss of his hand, a central control key flew towards Long Bing. Long Bing reached out and grabbed it. She asked in surprise, "What are you doing?" Charlotte smiled. "I saw your eyes shining as you looked at my car. I know you like two things, guns and off-road vehicles. If you like it, I'll give it to you." Ah. Long Bing stared at Charlotte, dumbfounded. Tang Yuyan's jaw almost dropped to the ground. He gave a car worth 20 million yuan to Long Bing just like that, just because Long Bing's eyes were shining when she looked at his car. If giving a woman a car was a state of picking up girls, then he was obviously invincible. Charlotte said, "The purchase tax has been paid, but the car hasn't been licensed yet. You can go and get it yourself." No, no, no. Long Bing came back to her senses. She stuffed the central control key into Charlotte's hand. I can't accept such an expensive gift from you." Tang Yuan interrupted. "That's right. If your Fan finds out that you gave Bing such an expensive gift, will she argue with you?" Charlotte smiled and said, "That's easy. I'll call Fan later and ask her to accompany Bing to get the license." Tang Yuyan. In the end, Long Bing couldn't put the central control key back to Charlotte. She actually didn't want to refuse because she liked the Night 15. After a few pushes, Long Bing sighed and said awkwardly, then I'll accept it." Charlotte nodded. "I'll buy another one later, and we'll drive the same car." Long Bing. Tang Yuyan curled up the corner of her mouth and said in a sour tone, "Chairman Xia, you're a king now. The organization arranged an empress concubine for you, and you brought Liang Xiao into your harem. Oh, and Zhang Rui, I know she came to live with you for a week. Look, you have 3 wives and 6 concubines now. You're living a happier life than an immortal." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "Yuyan, you know my situation. I'm having a headache, so don't step on my sore foot." Tang Yuyan rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "I'm afraid every man would want to have a sore foot like yours, right?" Charlotte was choked by her words. "I'm also looking at your new car with shining eyes. Can you give me one too?" Tang Yuyan said. Charlotte's head began to hurt. He also regretted giving Long Bing a car in front of Tang Yuyan. He wanted to make Long Bing happy. Tang Yuyan also wanted a Night 15 now. Should he give it to her? "Why? You can give it to Long Bing, but I can't," Tang Yuyan said. At this time, Long Bing suddenly interrupted and said, "Lei, you sleep at my house tonight. I'll talk to Xiao." This sentence immediately stunned Tang Yuyan. Long Bing used this sentence to tell her that she slept with Charlotte, so Charlotte gave her a car. "If he wanted to give you a car, sleep with him tonight," Long Bing said in Tang Yuyan's ear. Tang Yuyan, a woman of the Tang family, would obviously not sleep with a man for a Night 15, even if that man was Charlotte. Chapter 885. Before coming to 101 innings, Charlotte had no idea that the people Long Bing asked him to meet were Yushanha and Ling Hao. The meeting place was a very special room. The walls and seats were wrapped with a layer of soft plastic, which was a measure to prevent people from killing themselves by hitting the wall. Yushanha and Ling Hao met Charlotte in such a room. It was not difficult to see the ending of the two. Yushanha was sitting on a sofa, reading a newspaper in his hand. Ling Hao stood behind him, like a servant. Yushanha still maintained a certain leadership aura, but Ling Hao seemed to have changed into a different person. He no longer had the sharpness and confidence of the past. When Sherborin led Charlotte through the door, Yushanha and Ling Hao looked over at the same time. Both of their eyes focused on Charlotte. In that instant, both of their eyes were filled with hatred. Charlotte smiled. "Hello, Chief, you brother Ling. How have you been?" Yushana and Ling Hao just looked at Charlotte, and no one spoke. This meeting was arranged by 101 innings. As far as the two of them were concerned, they certainly did not want to see Charlotte. Charlotte greeted them at this time. It seemed kind and friendly, but for them, it was undoubtedly the most vicious satire. Even a month ago, Yushanha and Ling Hao were high and mighty figures. Ordinary people might not be able to reach the height they once reached, even if they worked hard for several generations. At that time, the two of them were so glorious. But now, they had become sinners, and what awaited them was the punishment of the law. 1 ridge, 3 ridges, 3 rotten, 3 poor, 3 rich, not old. This old saying could not be more appropriate for Yushanha and Ling Hao today. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became awkward and dull. Sherboran said, "Old you, don't read the newspaper. Charlotte is a busy man, and we don't want to waste his time. I arranged this meeting mainly to understand some things. I know you don't want to see each other. It's better for everyone to get it over with." In the past, when Sherboran saw Yushanha, he had to call him Chief Yu. Now, he even addressed him as Old Yu. Yushanha put down the newspaper. "What's there to talk about? Wasn't it just a small matter? If you have evidence, sue me." Sherboran furrowed his brows. Ling Hao seemed to want to say something, but he didn't. Charlotte moved closer to Sherboran's ear and whispered, "When did you catch him? Where did you catch him?" Sherboran also moved his mouth close to Charlotte's ear and said in a low voice, "We caught him last night in a small mountain village on the border between Heilongjiang and Russia. The two of them actually wanted to escape to Russia. They were really stupid. If they escaped to Europe and America, it will be very troublesome for us to extradite them back." Were Yushanha and Ling Hao such fools? Obviously not. Only Charlotte knew the reason why they went to Russia. It was a hypnotic command given to them by Zhu Xianyue. If they hadn't been arrested, they would have crawled to Moscow. But Charlotte certainly wouldn't tell Sherboran about it. He couldn't even tell Long Bing and Tang Yuyan, let alone him. "I see, so that's how it is," Charlotte said. He observed Yushanha and Ling Hao with his eyes, but secretly said in his heart, "These two people look very normal. It seems that they have not been affected by Zhu Xianyue. Did they return to normal after Zhu Xianyue went to the United States? Or is there a time limit for Zhu Xuanyue's hypnotic control?" He thought of Zhu Xianyue again. "What are you two whispering about?" Yushanha stood up from the sofa. "I, Yushanha, am upright, and I'm not afraid of you framing me. I also want to tell you that this matter won't end here. If you can't produce any evidence, I'll make you suffer the consequences." Sherboran sighed. "Old you, if I didn't have evidence, would I dare to invite you here to talk? You know very well what you have done. Let's not beat around the bush and make things clear. We will make trouble for each other. What do you think? Show me your so-called evidence." Yushanha said, "You will see it when the time comes." Sherboran said, "Humph." Yushanha snorted coldly. "If you don't show me the evidence, what am I going to talk to you about? You go." Sherboran suddenly frowned. Yushanha pointed at Charlotte again. "And you get out, I don't want to see you. Forget it. I won't talk to you anymore. I'll let Long Bing handle it." Sherboran turned and walked out, but he didn't call Charlotte. Charlotte suddenly understood why Sherboran called him over. Interrogating a big tiger like Yushanha was not a simple matter. The simple point was that he was not alone. There were people behind him who had a stake in his interests. Those people were already sitting on pins and needles at the moment. Would they sit back and do nothing about this matter? Under such circumstances, the people who interrogated Yushanha would face great pressure and even unknown risks. Sherboran was a man who was about to retire. Of course, he was not willing to take such risks. If he pulled out the people behind Yushanha, would they treat him like this? Sherboran was not willing, and he was not willing to let Tang Yuyan, who was about to succeed him, do this. Hence, this matter fell on Long Bing's shoulders. She was almost alone, who cared about her life and death. Understanding this, Charlotte's heart was filled with sadness and anger. But he also knew that this was the arena of power. It had always been a battlefield where there was no smoke of gunpowder. He understood Long Bing's situation, but he couldn't change anything at all. Zhu Xianyue and I helped her complete that impossible task. But am I really helping her? The more credit she has, the less legitimate Tang Yuyin's position will be. The relationship between the two was originally very good, but if it continues to develop like this, will it still be as good as before? Will the people behind you, Shanha, treat her like this? Thinking about these things made Charlotte feel sad. Before Long Bing came, Yushana spoke. Charlotte, you must be very proud now, right? Charlotte put away his thoughts and said lightly, It's all right. Rima Group's main battle tank is about to be released, and the progress of artificial intelligence technology and new material technology is also good. These are all things that make me happy, but he smiled at this point. But seeing the two of you here is what makes me the happiest. Don't be complacent. Be careful that extreme joy turns to sorrow. Yu Shanha did not hide the hatred in his eyes. Charlotte laughed and said, Are you trying to scare me? You couldn't scare me when you were in power, and you didn't beat me. Do you think I will be afraid by saying a few words now? Do you think I will change my position? Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't take chances now that things have come to this. You should stand up and take responsibility for what you have done. Well, I have given a lot of political lessons in my life. Don't give me that. You're not qualified to give me any political lessons. Yu Shanha said disdainfully. There was no way to talk. Charlotte's eyes moved to Ling Hao. Ling Hao finally spoke. Charlotte, if you are here to laugh at me, you have seen it. You can go. If you are here to help with the investigation, I advise you not to get involved in this matter. Don't you see that Sherborin doesn't want to get involved? Do you want to get involved? It's not good for you. Go. Charlotte just listened and did not respond. Of course, he would not believe that Ling Hao would be so kind as to specifically remind him not to get involved in this matter. The reason why Ling Hao said this was because he was afraid of him. If these two people had to choose between Sherborin, Long Bing, and him, they would probably choose Long Bing, not him, not Sherborin. Why? Don't you want to talk to me? Ling Hao said, I have good intentions. Don't misunderstand. Charlotte laughed. Your good intentions? If I believe that you have good intentions for me, the grass on my grave would be half the height of a person. Ling Hao sneered and did not say anything again. Less than 2 minutes later, Long Bing came in. She was holding a transcript of the interrogation, as well as the ink used for signature. Obviously, Sherborin had thrown the 2 hot potatoes, Yu Shanha and Ling Hao, into her hands. Charlotte had already seen through the truth, but Long Bing seemed to be kept in the dark. She looked excited and happy. Judging from her mood, she was obviously happy to accept this task. Alas, Charlotte sighed in his heart. She is too upright and naive. She is really a silly girl who helps people to earn money after being sold. Long Bing put the interrogation transcript on a table. Chief Yu, Mr. Ling, please cooperate with me. I will finish the process as soon as possible so you can rest. Yu Shanha and Ling Hao did not even look at Long Bing. Didn't you hear me? Long Bing frowned. Yu Shanha and Ling Hao still did not even bother to look at Long Bing. Long Bing was angry. She slammed the table and said angrily, You have to know your current status. Why are you putting on airs? Yu Shanha glanced at Long Bing and said slowly, his tone full of disdain, A very fierce woman. Are you going to torture her? Torture? For a person like Yu Shanha, even if he had broken the law, who would dare to torture him? If it was an ordinary criminal or a terrorist, Long Bing would have already pounced on him and beaten him into a transformer. However, the person in front of her was Yu Shanha. She didn't dare to and couldn't do that. The law was sometimes a very strange thing. If it was serious, if you poke someone with a finger, it could be a personal injury. If it was more lenient, a death sentence could also be a reprieve, and a reprieve could become a fixed death sentence. This was the situation Long Bing was facing now. If she went to beat up an ordinary criminal or a terrorist at this time, no one would find trouble with her. But if she poked Yu Shanha with a finger, then trouble would come to her like a mountain, and she would be charged with malfeasance or personal injury at any time. Yu Shanha and Ling Hao also had this kind of strategy. I'll just play with you like this. This is my attitude. What do you do to me? You can't do anything to me. Chapter 886. He wouldn't listen. She didn't dare to hit him. In the face of such a situation, Long Bing was really at her wit's end. She had no experience in interrogating a big shot like Yushanha. Just as she was worrying, Charlotte pulled her sleeve and motioned for her to go out and talk. Long Bing followed Charlotte out of the room. "What do you want to say?" Charlotte said. "This kind of thing should have been done by President Sure. Only he has the right level. Even he is not willing to do it. Why did you take it?" Long Bing said, "This is President Sure's idea. Can I not do it? Besides, I want to do it too. This case was solved by me. I am responsible for the end. Isn't there a beginning and an end? These two people are not simple people. Whoever takes it will be in trouble. Don't you understand?" Charlotte was anxious for her. Long Bing smiled. "Of course I understand. But if I am afraid of trouble, who will do it? Someone has to do it after all. I am not afraid of trouble. Okay, I have to go in. Don't get involved. You are so busy. If you get into trouble, it will waste your time. I am not afraid of trouble. Let the trouble come to me." Xiao Lei pulled her back. "You don't have to worry about this. I'll do it for you." "You?" Long Bing looked at Charlotte in surprise. Charlotte said, "Yes, I will handle it. Am I not also a 101 innings person? I am a consultant for 101 innings. If you can take it, I can take it." "But," Charlotte interrupted her, "don't say it. Trust me. Let me take it. You are not afraid of trouble. I am afraid of trouble. Do you understand what I mean?" Long Bing was stunned for a moment, but she had to admit that what Charlotte said was true. She was not afraid of trouble, but trouble would definitely come to her. But Charlotte, in her situation, was the opposite. He defeated people like Yushanha and Ling Hao, and he also had Fan Fan as his fiancée. Would the stakeholders behind Yushanha and Ling Hao dare to cause trouble for Charlotte? Those people pulled Long Bing to Sherborne's office. "What are you going to do?" Long Bing was inexplicably nervous. "You know what I'm going to do. Just listen and don't say anything," said Charlotte. She didn't know why, but she was very happy and liked this feeling, even though she was being forced to do something she didn't want to do. She didn't know why, but even though she was being forced to do something she didn't want to do, she was very happy in her heart and liked this feeling. Under this feeling, she felt that she was a woman, and a woman who was spoiled. Arriving at the door of Sherborne's office, Charlotte didn't rush to knock on the door. Instead, he activated the ability of his left eye to observe. Sherborne was talking to Tang Yuyan. "Godfather, isn't it better for you to handle this matter? Why did you let Long Bing do it?" Tang Yuyan said, "She solved the case of Yushanha and Ling Hao, which is equivalent to one person catching a big tiger. With such a great credit, if she is also responsible for finishing the work, it will be another credit. As the director, I didn't do anything. What will the people in the bureau think of me? What will the higher-ups think of me? You are too young to understand the importance of this." Sherborne said, "Yushanha is not a small figure. There are many people behind him. Those people are now in danger. In this case, will they sit back and do nothing? Whoever takes over will have to face these troubles. You don't have to worry about what Long Bing will get from the interrogation. Yushanha will not cooperate with her. This matter will eventually be handled by the higher-ups. We are just going through the process and warming up for Yushanha and Ling Hao." Tang Yin sighed. "Godfather, I always feel sorry for Long Bing." Sherborne said, "There is nothing to be sorry about. This is work. She'll understand you. I know her." Charlotte sneered in his heart. He understood what Sherborne meant. Long Bing was honest. It didn't matter if she was tricked. Long Bing couldn't hear the conversation in the office, and she didn't know that Charlotte was peeping at the conversation between Sherborne and Tang Yuyan. She touched Charlotte's arm and looked at Charlotte curiously. She didn't speak. It seemed that she was asking Charlotte with her eyes. "Why are you standing at the door?" Charlotte reached out and knocked on the door. Tang Yuyan came over and opened the door. When she saw Charlotte and Long Bing with a gloomy face, her heart inexplicably jumped. Why are you here again?" Charlotte didn't speak to her. He brushed past her and went straight to the point when he faced Sherborne. "Mr. Sure, Yushanha and Ling Hao are not willing to cooperate at all. Leave this matter to me. I will take over the finishing work." "You?" Sherborne looked very surprised. "Yes, I will handle it," Charlotte said. I volunteered to complete the task. No, no. Sherboran shook his head repeatedly. Yu Shanha is not an ordinary person. You can't interrogate him. If you don't let me try, how do you know I can't do it? Charlotte was angry in his heart. I say, what's wrong with you today? I think I shouldn't have asked you to come over. You should study more weapons when you have nothing to do. This is what you should do. You want to take over such a task. Do you have nothing better to do? Sherboran's eyes suddenly moved to Long Bing. Oh, I understand. You want a Long Bing to help you, right? Long Bing, tell me, what is the relationship between you and Charlotte? Oui. Long Bing couldn't say it. Mr. Sure. Charlotte suppressed the anger in his heart. She's not easy to say. Let me say it. I can tell you very clearly that she is my woman. At this moment, Long Bing's heart softened into a mess. This was the first time that Charlotte said that she was his woman in public. Moreover, he said in such an occasion in front of Sherboran. To her, this sentence was like a house that Xia Lei had built for her to live in. This was her home. It was also at this moment that Tang Yuyin's heart was broken. She racked her brains to get Charlotte's heart, but now Charlotte gave his heart to Long Bing in front of her. Charlotte's words caused no less than 100,000 points of damage to her. Hearing the same sentence, Long Bing's eyes became moist. Tang Yuyin's eyes also became moist. But these were two different kinds of moist. Because Long Bing's tears contained sugar, but Tang Yuyin's tears contained salt. Sherboran pointed at Charlotte and glared at Long Bing. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. For him, Charlotte's words were a challenge to him. Charlotte's tone was calm. Mr. Sure, there are some words that I have been holding in my heart for a long time. If I don't say it, I won't be happy. Say it. Long Bing is my woman. I want her to live happily. I only have one wish. I hope you can help me fulfill this wish. Sherboran didn't say anything. Charlotte continued. I want to help her complete this task. Let me take over. I don't want her to get into any trouble, and I'm not afraid of trouble. Do you think you can do whatever you want when you have the ability? Long Bing is your woman. If you feel wronged here, you can take her away. Sherboran's emotions were a little out of control. Charlotte said, I tried to persuade her, but she didn't want to go to my company. She loved this country, and she loved her job. I won't force her to give up what she loves, but I will help her. You are really a great lover, but I have the final say here. If I don't agree, I won't agree. Charlotte said, It's fine if you don't agree. I will immediately resign from my position as a consultant in 101 innings. In the future, don't come to me if you have any difficult problems in 101 innings. Sherboran suddenly became angry on the spot. Although Charlotte was only a part-time worker in 101 innings, he was an indispensable core figure. If he resigned, it would definitely be a huge loss to 101 innings, and it would also have a huge impact on Tang Yuyin's career. Godfather, just agree. Tang Yuyin's voice was a little hoarse. Sherboran glared at Tang Yuyin, then pointed to Charlotte. You kid, Charlotte smiled. President Sure, what do you want to say? If you want to take over, why are you still standing here? Get out of here, Sherboran said. Then I'll go. Thank you, President Sure. Thank you, Yuyin. Charlotte thanked him and then left Sherboran's office. From beginning to end, he restrained the anger in his heart. This was the right thing to do. Whether it was Sherboran or Tang Yuyin, they were not his enemies, but his friends. Although he was angry about the unfair treatment that Long Bing had suffered, this was the power field. It was not clean at all, and he could actually understand it. He had always been tolerant to his friends and relatives. A man's heart must be broad-minded to accommodate the mountains and rivers. When Charlotte went out, Tang Yuyin chased after him. Long Bing stood at the door and did not chase after him. You won't blame me, will you? There were more tears in Tang Yuyin's eyes, as if they would flow out at any time. Charlotte couldn't bear it in his heart. He sighed. There are some things that you can't help. I understand, and I won't blame you. A bitter smile appeared on the corner of Tang Yuyin's mouth. If it were me, would you help me like this? Charlotte said, What kind of question is this? In Tavong, Shi province, I took off all my clothes and gave them to you. How else do you want me to help you? You even left a pair of underwear. Tang Yuyin said. Her mood was obviously better. Okay, I'm going to work. One last question. Tang Yuyin stared at Charlotte. Just now, when you said in front of Godfather and me that Long Bing is your woman, my heart felt like it was torn apart by you. But I'm not jealous of Bing. I'm happy for her. The best gift in her life is you. I know that as well as she does. The question I want to ask you is, if it were me, would you say that? Charlotte shook his head. No. Tang Yuyin was stunned on the spot. Why? Why? Because you're a woman of the Tang family. You don't need it. Charlotte left. Tang Yuyin stared blankly at Charlotte's back. 2 drops of tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. Long Bing walked over and patted Tang Yuyin's shoulder. He can't give you what you want. You don't want what he can give you. You'll be happy when you figure out what you want. Tang Yuyin suddenly pulled Long Bing in front of her and buried her head on Long Bing's shoulder. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.